Hey, tonight you are not in your bed. You are on a reed mat on a hard, cold, packed earth floor. The air is thick. You can taste the salt of dried sweat on your lips, and the smell of thousands of other people is mixed with the acrid dust of limestone. You thought building pyramids was for glory and for gods. Try thinking about the calloused hands and the constant dull ache in your lower back. You are building a stairway to heaven for a king, but your own life is tethered to the mud of the Nile. The grit of sand. It's a permanent seasoning in every meal. Even now, you can feel it grinding between your teeth. By the time this story is over, you will understand why just surviving another day was a miracle, its own form of immortality. What time is it where you are? I'd love to know who is joining me on this journey through the night into the past. And if you enjoy these quiet dives into history, perhaps consider hitting subscribe. It lets me know you're out there listening, and it means more than you know. Now dim your lights. Let your body sink deep into your mattress. Let the sounds of the modern world just fade away. Because you are no longer in control. You are a builder, and the pyramid does not care if you are tired. The dawn has not yet broken, but the desert cold has already crept through the cracks in the mud brick walls to wake you. This is not a house in the way you might think of one. It is a box, a cocoon fashioned from the mud of the Nile mixed with straw and baked dry by the scorching sun. You live in a village built for people like you, a maze of narrow, dusty alleys where the walls of one home nearly touch the walls of the next. There is no privacy. Your neighbor's cough, the persistent cry of a child in the home across the way, the whispered arguments. They all bleed into your small space, as if they were happening in the room with you. This single room is your bedroom, your kitchen, and the storage for your family's few possessions. The floor is packed earth, always feeling slightly damp and cool beneath your bare feet. In one corner stand a few clay pots, one for water, another holding the last of the grain. The smell of this place is a complex and familiar symphony. It is the smell of old straw of smoke from last night's cooking fire, still hanging in the air, the smell of human sweat, and the distinct, musky scent of the small goat tethered just outside your most valuable asset. You stretch, and every joint in your body protests. There is no bed, only a thin reed mat spread upon the floor, worn smooth by years of use. Your woolen blanket, heavy and coarse, is also saturated with the smells of life smoke dust and you. You look around in the dim, pre-dawn light. Your wife is still asleep, her breathing steady. Your children are curled together beside her, sharing warmth. This is your world. It is small. It is crowded. And every surface, every scent is a constant reminder of a life lived on the very edge of survival. The single wooden door doesn't quite fit its frame, letting in a sliver of the deep, blue, star-filled sky, and with it, the endless dust of the plateau. Soon you will join the line. It forms every morning in the dark, a silent river of tired bodies waiting for their daily wage. Not of coin is for the great and powerful. Your wage is food. A scribe, whose clean linen clothes seem to be from another world, sits behind a wooden table. He does not look at you. His eyes are on his clay tablet as he makes a mark next to your name, his expression bored indifferent. Another man, thick-armed and sweating even in the morning chill, hands you your portion. It is bread. Not the light, airy bread you might imagine. This is a dense, heavy loaf, made from emmer wheat, coarse and gritty. It feels like a stone in your hand. This is the foundation of your existence. Beside the bread, you are given your ration of beer served in a simple clay cup. You drink it quickly. It is not a drink for leisure. It is thick, sour, and uncarbonated, more like a thin, fermented porridge. But it is filled with the energy you will need to move mountains. It is liquid bread, and it will be the fuel that gets you through the morning. Sometimes there are onions. You treasure them. Their sharp, pungent bite is a welcome shock to the senses, a break from the monotony of the grain. On a good day, there might be a handful of lentils or a piece of dried salted fish from the Nile, its flavor overwhelmingly strong. You eat with your hands, sitting on the ground outside your home as the first light of day begins to stain the eastern sky. You chew slowly, deliberately. Every calorie is precious. There is no sense of enjoyment, only the primal, necessary act of fueling the machine. You eat what is given, because without it, you are nothing. The constant low-grade hunger that lives in your belly is a permanent companion. This meal will quiet it for a few hours, but you know it will be back roaring long before the sun is at its peak. You do not pray to Ra, the great sun god, as he begins his journey across the sky. Ra is for kings and high priests in their vast temples. Your beliefs are smaller, more intimate, woven into the very fabric of your survival. You believe in Ma'at. It is not a god you pray to, but a force, a principle. It is the idea of order, of balance, of truth. And you believe in your own small way that your back-breaking work helps to maintain it. The pyramid is not just a tomb. It is a monument to Ma'at, a nail pinning the order of the cosmos in place. If you do your job, if the pyramid rises correctly, the sun will continue to rise, the Nile will continue to flood and bring life, and the world will not fall into chaos. This belief is a weight, but it is also a purpose. Your prayers are for the things that can go wrong today. In a small niche carved into the wall of your home is a small, ugly, bandy-legged figure of the god Bees. You touch it as you leave. You ask it to protect you from scorpions and snakes that hide among the stones to ward off the evil spirits that might cause a block to slip or a rope to snap. Your wife murmurs a prayer to Taweret, the terrifying and protective goddess who looks like a pregnant hippopotamus, asking her to watch over the children while you are gone, to keep sickness from the door. You fear magic, a sudden illness, a string of bad luck. It could be a curse from a neighbor you have wronged. You are careful. You do not boast. You do not draw attention to yourself. You live in a world where the gods are everywhere, not just in the sky, but in the river, in the stones, and in the shadows of your own home. They are powerful, they are indifferent, and your life is spent trying to navigate their unseen currents without being swept away. The last of the bread is gone. The taste of sour beer still lingers on your tongue. Now you sit. You sit in the quiet cold of the morning, and you wait. This is a familiar moment, a pause between the world of sleep and the world of labor. Your first conscious thought was not of your family or of the gods. It was of the deep, familiar ache in your spine. You can feel it now, a hot, tight knot of pain that never truly goes away. You roll your shoulders trying to work out the stiffness, but it is as useless as trying to push the sun back below the horizon. You look at your hands in the growing light. The palms are a landscape of calluses, thick and yellowed. There are scars, new and old, mapping out a history of accidents and close calls. These are the hands of a builder. They are your only real tools. Around you, the village is stirring into a low hum of activity. There is no chatter, no laughter, just the sounds of 1,000 other people doing exactly what you are doing, preparing their bodies and their minds for the ordeal to come. Then it happens. The sound. It starts as a low vibration that you feel in the ground before you hear it. A deep, resonant blast from a copper horn echoing from the direction of the Great Plateau. It is not a gentle call to work. It is a summons, a command. It cuts through the morning air and seems to shake the very foundations of your small home. It is the sound of the day beginning, whether you are ready for it or not. It is the sound of the great machine stirring to life. And you are just one of its countless replaceable parts. You take one last look at your sleeping children, push yourself to your feet, and walk out the door to join the silent, shuffling river of humanity flowing towards the Great Pyramid. You step out from the low doorway of your home into the pre-dawn chill. The horn's echo still vibrates in your bones. It is a sound that doesn't just enter your ears. It commands your entire body, pulling you from the relative warmth of your home into the vast, cold emptiness of the world. It is the only authority you know, more immediate than any god, more absolute than any law. It is the voice of the work, and it has called your name. The alley is still draped in a deep, sapphire blue darkness, but it is no longer empty. From other doorways identical to yours, other figures emerge. They are shadows at first, detaching themselves from the deeper shadows of the mud brick walls. No one speaks. There is no need. The horn has said everything that needs to be said. A shared understanding passes between you in the gloom, a language of lowered heads of shoulders, slumped with a familiar resignation. This is the great silent muster. The ground is cold and uneven beneath your bare feet. Sharp pebbles and loose grit press into your soles, a constant low-level pain that you ceased to notice long ago. It is just part of the texture of life. You fall into step with the man who emerged from the house next to yours, and he falls into step with another, and soon you are no longer an individual. You are a drop of water joining a current, a silent river of men flowing through the winding arteries of the village. The smell of dust kicked up by thousands of feet begins to fill the air, mingling with the faint, lingering scent of last night's cooking fires. You can feel the sheer mass of humanity around you, the slight jostle of a shoulder, the sound of another man's weary sigh, the rhythmic shuffle of countless pairs of feet on the hard-packed earth. It is a strangely comforting and terrifying feeling at once. You are not alone in your toil, but your individual life has been erased, absorbed into this single massive organism whose only purpose is to move in one direction. Your personal worries the cough your youngest child developed. In the night, the leak in your roof that needs mending are silenced by the overwhelming singular purpose of the march. As the river of men flows out of the cramped village, the landscape opens up. The sky ahead is no longer black, but a bruised purple bleeding into a soft pale orange at the very edge of the world. And there, against that growing light, it looms. The pyramid. Even unfinished, it is a terrifying spectacle. A man-made mountain of black stone at sharp angles cutting into the soft colors of the dawn. It seems to drink the light, a void in the shape of a triangle. This is your destination. This is the altar upon which your day and every day will be sacrificed. The horn may have been the voice that woke you, but the pyramid is the silent presence that pulls you forward. Its immense dark gravity is inescapable. You and the thousands of men around you walk on your heads, down your hearts heavy, marching toward the great shadow that waits to consume your strength. The river of men does not flow directly to the base of the pyramid. It diverts, pooling into a vast open area dotted with the flickering orange light of torches. This is the first station of your workday, the great outdoor stomach of the operation. Here the fuel is distributed. The air grows thick with the smell of wood smoke, beer-soaked clay, and the sour scent of thousands of unwashed bodies pressed closely together. You are crushed in the throng, a dense mass of shoulders and backs, all pushing slowly, inexorably towards a series of long, low tables. There is no neat line, only a collective Darwinian shuffle towards the source of the food. Behind one of the tables sits a man who is not like you. He is a scribe. He is not muscular. His arms are thin, and his hands, though stained with ink, are uncalloused. He wears a kilt of clean white linen that seems to glow in the torchlight, a stark contrast to your own rough, dirt-stained garment. He does not feel the cold. He is an instrument of the state, a living cog in a different part of the machine, the part that counts, that records, that manages. His face is a mask of detached efficiency. In his hand he holds a reed pen, and before him lies a damp clay tablet, already covered in the intricate marks that represent the lives and labor of other men. When your turn finally comes, you stand before him, but he does not look at you. He does not see your face, your tired eyes, or the fresh scratch on your cheek from a restless night. He sees only a presence, a body to be accounted for. You say your name and the name of your crew leader. His pen moves swiftly across the clay, a small, sharp scratch. He makes a mark. You have been acknowledged. You exist officially for this day. With a flick of his eyes, he dismisses you, his attention already on the next man, pressing in behind you. You move to the next man, at the table, a laborer like you, but one tasked with distribution. His movements are robotic, efficient. He grabs a loaf of bread from a massive wicker basket and thrusts it into your waiting hands. The weight of it is immediate and familiar. It is heavy, dense, a brick of baked grain. The crust is hard enough to break a tooth, and you know from 1,000 previous mornings that the inside will be tough, chewy, and shot through with little particles of grit from the grinding stones. This is not food for pleasure. This is fuel, measured and calculated. Next, you hold out your simple clay cup, and another man fills it from a large vat with a ladle. The beer sloshes over the rim. It is lukewarm, the color of mud, and a thick, yeasty foam clings to the sides of your cup. The smell is sharp and sour. This is not the drink of celebrations. This is your hydration and your calories, a liquid ration designed to keep you working. You receive no more, no less than your allotted share. To the scribe, you are a mark on a tablet. To the distributors, you are an empty hand and an empty cup to be filled. The transaction is complete in a matter of seconds. You shuffle away from the table, clutching your meager breakfast, guarding it from the jostling crowd. There is nowhere to sit. You find a spot on the cold ground, your back against a large discarded stone, and you eat. You tear off a piece of the bread, with your teeth chewing for a long time to soften it. You take a sip of the beer to wash it down the sourness, making your eyes water slightly. You eat methodically, hunched over watching the thousands of other men around you doing the exact same thing. In this vast, flickering darkness, 1,000 men are eating the same bread, drinking the same beer, preparing for the same pain. This is not a shared meal. It is a mass fueling a cold and impersonal process that reinforces your place in the world. You are a worker. You are a body. And you have just been refueled for the brutal day ahead. The last of the beer is gone, and the heavy bread sits like a stone in your stomach. There is no time for digestion, no moment of rest. A new sound cuts through the air, not the deep boom of the great horn, but the sharp percussive shouts of the foreman. They move through the dispersing crowd, their voices, like whips, gathering their crews. You hear the name of your foreman, a man named Bach, and you move towards the sound drawn by a familiar authority. You find your group, your za. There are 20 of you, a small tribe bound by shared labor and shared misery. These are the men you truly know. You know that young Ibby has a quick laugh but is careless with his footing. You know that old Kenty can read the grain of the stone like a scribe reads a papyrus, but his cough gets worse every month. You trust some of these men with your life implicitly. Others you watch with a careful, guarded eye. For the next 10 hours, this will be your family, your team, your cage. Bach gives a sharp nod, his face grim, in the low, horizontal light of the rising sun. He turns, and without a word, begins to walk. You and the others fall in behind him, a small tributary breaking away from the main river of workers. Not everyone is headed for the pyramid today. The great monument requires a constant supply of stone, a ceaseless flow of raw material, to feed its insatiable appetite. Today, you are on your way to the source. You are walking to the quarry. The journey is long, a monotonous trek across the Giza Plateau. The ground is not flat. It is a landscape of gentle, rolling inclines, covered in loose rock and deep sand that saps the strength from your legs with every step. The sun, now clear of the horizon, begins its relentless assault. The air is still cool, but you can feel the promise of the brutal heat to come, a warmth that radiates upwards from the ground itself. Ahead of you, the crew kicks up a cloud of fine pale dust that hangs in the air, catching the morning light. You walk into it, breathing it in. It coats your tongue and the back of your throat. It is the taste of the plateau. The only sounds are the rhythmic crunch and shuffle of feet on gravel, the occasional grunt as someone stumbles, and the low, muttered conversations within the group. Stories from the night before, complaints about an aching back, a joke told in a low voice that earns a few tired chuckles. You remain silent, conserving your energy, your eyes fixed on the back of the man in front of you. After what feels like an eternity, the landscape begins to change. The ground becomes harder, more solid, and the sound begins. At first, it's just a faint, high-pitched ringing, a vibration you feel more than you hear. But as you get closer, it grows, resolving itself into a cacophony of sharp, distinct noises. It is the sound of a mountain being systematically, violently disassembled. You round a final outcrop of rock, and the quarry opens up before you. It is a breathtaking and horrifying sight. It is a wound in the earth, a massive tiered pit descending deep into the bedrock. The walls are sheer cliffs scarred with the marks of 10,000 tools. The floor of the pit is a chaotic jumble of giant half-hewn blocks, piles of rubble, and swarms of men looking like insects from this distance. The air here is different. It is thick white and suffocating with limestone dust. It stings your eyes and makes you want to cough immediately. And the sound is now an overwhelming physical assault. It is the endless, sharp clink, clink, clink of dolerite pounders against stone, the grating shriek of copper saws, lubricated with sand, the deep, resonant crack, as a massive block is finally split from the bedrock with wooden wedges. Shouted commands echo strangely off the high rock walls, creating a confusing multi-layered din. This is not a place of construction of bringing order from chaos. This is a place of deconstruction, a place of violence. You stand at the precipice, looking down into the man-made hell. Your brief journey is over. Buck is already barking orders, pointing your crew towards a set of rough-hewn steps leading down into the pit. The real work is about to begin. Your foreman, Buck, leads you down a series of treacherously steep, narrow steps carved into the quarry wall. The air grows thicker and hotter with every step downward, the dust catching in your throat. He points you to a section of the rock face, a sheer wall of limestone that glows a blinding white in the morning sun. This is your canvas of pain for the day. There is no gentle start, no easing into the labor. Bach barks an order, and you and the other men pick up your tools, heavy rounded dolerite pounders, copper chisels that will blunt in an hour, and wooden mallets. The work begins. You find your rhythm, the familiar three-part motion, place the chisel, raise the mallet, strike. A small puff of white dust, a few chips of stone fall away. Repeat. 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. This rhythm is the core of your existence here. But there is another rhythm in the quarry, an unpredictable one. It is the rhythm of fear. And it is dictated by the man you call the overseer. He is not a laborer. He is not a foreman like Buck, who despite his authority is still covered in the same dust as you. The overseer is different. He walks the high ledges that ring the pit, a solitary figure silhouetted against the bright sky. His linen kilt is of a finer quality, its whiteness a reproach to the grime that covers everything below. He carries no tool, only a smooth, polished wooden rod held loosely in one hand. It is not a weapon, not really. It is a symbol. It is a punctuation mark to his authority. He does not shout. His power is in his presence. He is a shadow that moves in the full glare of the sun. You do not need to look up to know when he is near. You can feel it. A subtle shift happens in the pocket of noise your crew is making. The chatter dies instantly. The rhythm of the mallet striking chisels becomes a fraction faster, a little more frantic, a little less efficient. The air grows tense, heavy, with unspoken anxiety. Every man becomes acutely aware of his own movements, suddenly seeing them through the imagined critical eye of the man above. Are you striking hard enough? Are you wasting motion? Are you resting for a fraction of a second too long between swings? His shadow falls over you literally as he passes on the ledge above. It is a momentary, welcome relief from the sun, but it brings a deeper chill. He stops. You don't look up. You would never dare to meet his gaze. But you know he has stopped above your section. You can feel his eyes on the back of your neck, a physical weight. You focus on the small section of rock in front of you. The world shrinks to this single point, your hands, your chisel, the stone. You concentrate on making your movements seem strong, purposeful, tireless. Your heart beats a little faster. Your mouth is dry. Time seems to warp, stretching this single moment into an eternity. You can hear your own breathing loud in your ears, over the din of the quarry. He says nothing. He simply observes, a silent judge. He is assessing the pace. He is looking for weakness for the man who is slowing the man whose form is getting sloppy. He is a predator, and his prey is inefficiency. After a moment that feels like a lifetime, his shadow moves on. You hear the faint scrape of his sandals on the rock as he continues his patrol. A collective, silent sigh of relief passes through your crew. You risk a quick glance at Kenty beside you. His face is slick with sweat, his knuckles white where he grips his mallet. The frantic pace slows back to a sustainable, aching rhythm. The overseer is gone for now, but his presence lingers. His shadow remains in your mind, a constant low-level hum of fear that drives your arm to lift and strike again and again and again. He is the human face of the pyramid's relentless hunger. The overseer's shadow has passed, but the stone remains. It is your true master, your ultimate adversary. It fills your entire field of vision, a blinding white cliff, under the relentless gaze of the sun. It was here long before your grandfather was born, and it will be here long after your children's children are dust. It is ancient, patient, and utterly indifferent to your existence. Your life, your sweat, your pain, they are less than a momentary breeze against its immense geologic timescale. And yet, your task is to wound it. Your purpose is to carve it, to break it, to bend its ancient inertia to the will of a king. You are working on a channel, a deep line being carved vertically down the rock face. This channel, along with dozens of others, will define the edges of a single, massive block. Your world shrinks to this narrow groove. Your tool is a copper chisel. It feels soft, pathetically inadequate for the task. You place its tip against the stone, find the correct angle, and strike the wooden handle with your heavy mallet. There is a sharp, jarring crack. A vibration shoots from the point of impact up the chisel into your hand and reverberates through the bones of your arm, finally settling as a dull thrum in your shoulder. A few small white chips of stone, no bigger than your fingernail, fly off and disappear. This is the work, this single, violent, repetitive motion. You perform it again and again and again. Your body becomes a machine of 3 parts: place, lift, strike. The sun climbs higher, beating down on your exposed back, turning your skin into a canvas of burning pain. Sweat pours from you, stinging your eyes, tracing clean paths through the white dust that cakes your face and arms. The dust is everywhere. It's a fine, chalky powder that coats your tongue, dries out your throat, and makes every breath a conscious effort. You have long since learned to breathe through a piece of damp linen, but it does little to stop the finest particles from finding their way into your lungs. The limestone has a weight that goes far beyond its physical properties. It is a psychic weight. You feel it as you labor the crushing, overwhelming reality of the task. You are one man chipping away at a literal mountain. For every channel you help carve, 1,000 more are needed. For every block your crew liberates from the cliff face, 10,000 more are waiting. The pyramid itself is being built from these moments, from these tiny, insignificant acts of violence against stone. The weight of the finished monument is being built on the accumulated weight of your exhaustion. After an hour, your copper chisel is blunt. The edge has been worn away by the stubborn stone. It is useless. You curse under your breath and replace it with another from the small pile beside you. Time is measured this way, not by the sun, which seems to have stalled in the sky, but by the number of blunted chisels that lie at your feet. It is measured by the searing pain in your lower back, by the raw, chafed skin of your palms, by the deep, burning fire in your shoulders. You pause for a second, leaning your forehead against the cool face of the stone, the coolness, a shocking, momentary relief. You look at your work. The channel is deeper, perhaps, by the width of your thumb. A day of this agony to move a few inches. The weight of the limestone is not just in the stone itself. It is in the futility of the effort, the sheer impossible scale of it all. You close your eyes, take a breath full of dust, and pick up your mallet again. The stone is waiting. It is always waiting. There is another element here, an enemy as persistent as the stone and as relentless as the sun. It is the dust. It is born from every impact, every scrape, every shattering blow. Your own work creates a small cloud of it, but you are just one man among thousands. Every crew on every ledge is contributing to the atmosphere, collectively pulverizing the mountain into a fine, breathable powder. The quarry exists within its own permanent man-made weather system. It is a world shrouded in a perpetual white fog. You look across the pit, and the other side is a ghostly landscape of indistinct shapes and hazy movement. The sun is not a clear, sharp orb in the sky. It is a diffused, painful glare, its power filtered through the thick veil of airborne limestone. This constant haze plays tricks on your eyes, making it difficult to judge distances. A man walking on a far ledge appears as a mere specter, a ghost moving through a dreamscape. The world loses its sharp edges, softened into a blurry uniform whiteness. Everything, the rock, your tools, the skin of the man next to you is covered in a fine, pale film. It is the color of bone. You feel it more than you see it. It is a constant irritant in your eyes, a gritty sensation that no amount of blinking can fix. You try to wipe them with the back of your hand, but this only smears the mixture of sweat and dust into a sticky paste, making the stinging worse. It finds its way into your hair, into your ears, into the folds of your skin. It works its way under the rough linen of your kilt, a constant abrasive presence against your body. The air itself has a texture. Every breath you take is thick, dry, and unsatisfying. You taste it on your tongue, a chalky mineral flavor that never leaves. This is the taste of the mountain you are dismantling. You are in the most literal sense eating it. This is more than an inconvenience. The dust is a slow, patient poison. You hear its effect all around you. It is the sound of the quarry cough, a deep, wet, rattling sound that erupts from the chests of the older men. You see Kenty, the old stone reader, suddenly double over his body, racked by a violent hacking spasm. He drops his tools and presses a hand to his chest, fighting for breath. For a long moment he cannot draw any air, his face turning a dark, purplish red. The fit passes, and he spits a thick, grayish phlegm onto the white ground. He straightens up, slowly, his face pale, and without a word picks up his tools and resumes his work. You are young, and your own cough is still shallow and infrequent. But you hear the future in Kenty's lungs. You see it in the haunted, weary eyes of all the men who have spent years in this pit. You are all breathing in the very substance you are trying to break. The mountain is fighting back, not with the strength of its rock, but with the subtlety of its dust. It is finding its way inside you, settling in your lungs slowly, patiently turning the soft pink tissue into something hard and unyielding. It is the part of the pyramid you will carry with you long after the work is done. It is the dust that will settle inside you and never, ever leave. The sun has climbed higher, a merciless white furnace directly overhead. The glare from the limestone walls is so intense that you see dark spots dancing in your vision. Your body is screaming. Every muscle is a tightly coiled knot of fire, and your throat feels like it has been scraped raw with sand. The world has been reduced to a cycle of impact, dust, and pain. You think you cannot possibly lift the heavy mallet another time. And then a sharp, guttural shout from your foreman, Buck. It is not an order to work harder, but the one word you have been praying for: water. The word is magic. The work does not just stop, it collapses. You let your mallet and chisel fall from your numb fingers, the clatter of the tools on the rock, a sound of sweet surrender. A wave of dizziness and profound exhaustion washes over you, so intense it makes your knees buckle. Now that you are no longer fighting it, the pain asserts itself fully, a roaring tide in every fiber of your being. You slump against the hot rock face, your head hung low, your chest heaving as you gasp for air. Through the white haze you see him approaching, the water carrier. He is a boy, no older than 14, his limbs still lean and coltish. His task is too important for a man strong enough to quarry stone, yet it is one of the most vital jobs on the entire plateau. He moves with a careful, practiced gait, navigating the treacherous rubble-strewn floor, a large, dark, swollen waterskin slung over his shoulder. He is an angel of mercy in this man-made hell, and the sloshing sound of the water inside the skin is the most beautiful music in the world. He comes to your crew and you push yourself off the wall, joining the other men who gather around him with a desperate animal urgency. You hold out a small, rough clay cup. The boy tilts the waterskin, and a stream of cloudy, lukewarm water pours into your cup. You don't wait. You bring it to your lips with a trembling hand, and drink. In that moment, there is nothing else in the universe. Only the water. It is the most exquisite sensation imaginable. It is not cold, but it is cooler than the fire in your throat. It tastes faintly of the goatskin. It was carried in a musky, earthy flavor. You can feel it washing the thick, chalky paste of dust from your tongue and down your raw esophagus. You can feel the life-giving moisture being absorbed by your parched body, a feeling of relief so intense it is almost painful. You gulp it down greedily, the water spilling from the corners of your mouth and tracing clean, dark lines through the white dust on your chin. For a few precious seconds you are not a worker, not a slave to the stone. You are just a thirsty man drinking water. You close your eyes, savoring the feeling. You look over at Kenty, who is pouring a little of his share onto a rag and wiping his face, a look of sublime relief on his weary features. This is a moment of truce, a shared, silent acknowledgement of a basic primal need being met. But the moment is brutally, cruelly brief. The boy has already moved on to the next group of men. Your cup is empty. Your throat, though no longer burning, still feels dry. The ration was just enough to keep you from collapsing, not enough to truly quench the deep thirst your body holds. The foreman, Bach, is already on his feet. "Enough," he barks. "Back to it." The spell is broken. The thought of picking up your tools again is a physical blow. The memory of the water's cool relief is already starting to fade, a dream that is dissolving upon waking. You look at your heavy mallet lying in the dust, and it seems to weigh twice as much as it did before. The precious moment is over. The war against the stone resumes. The rhythm of the work is a fragile thing. It can be shattered in an instant. It happens without warning. There is a scream, sharp and ragged, cutting through the din of the quarry. It is the voice of young Ibi, the one who is often careless. You turn along with the rest of the crew to see him on his knees, clutching his left hand to his chest. His heavy dolerite pounder, which he must have been holding incorrectly, lies on the ground beside a dark spreading patch of red on the white limestone dust. His face is a mask of shock and agony. Your foreman, Bach, is there in a moment. He grabs Ibby's arm, pulling the injured hand away from his body to inspect it. His expression is not one of sympathy, but of pure, undiluted annoyance. An injured worker is a disruption. An injured worker means a loss in the day's quota. The sight of the hand is sickening. 2 of the fingers are bent at an unnatural angle, and the whole appendage is a crushed, bloody mess. Useless, Bach spits, not at Ibby, but at the situation itself. He looks at you and another man. "Take him to the Suitjendawiyabalu," he commands, using the word for a physician. "And hurry back, you're 1 man short." The journey out of the pit is a slow, agonizing ordeal. Ibby is pale and dizzy, leaning heavily on your shoulder, his breath coming in short, pained gasps. Every step on the steep, uneven stairs is a jolt that sends a fresh wave of pain through his body. The other work crews stop for a moment to watch you pass, their faces blank, but their eyes filled with a mixture of morbid curiosity and a silent, fearful prayer of thanks that it wasn't them. You are a slow-moving spectacle of pain, a reminder to everyone of how quickly their world can break. The clinic is not a building. It is a large, open-sided tent, set up on the edge of the quarry, shaded by a rocky overhang. It is a pocket of relative quiet, a sanctuary from the relentless noise of the work. But it has its own atmosphere, its own distinct smell. It is a cloying mixture of something sweet and medicinal, likely honey used to coat wounds, mingled with the metallic tang of fresh blood, the earthy scent of herbal poultices, and the ever-present dust. On a few dirty reed mats, other men lie in various states of injury, their low moans providing a constant miserable chorus. The Sadiu, the healer, is an old man with calm, knowing eyes. His hands, unlike the scribes, are stained not with ink, but with the fluids of the human body. He works with a detached focus, moving from one patient to the next. He gestures for you to lay Ibby down on an empty mat. The old man takes the mangled hand gently, his touch surprisingly delicate. He murmurs something soothing to Ibby, then begins his work. He washes the wound with beer from a clay jar, its alcoholic properties a raw but effective antiseptic. Ibby screams again, a muffled sound, as he bites down on a strip of leather another man gives him. The healer probes the wound with a slender copper instrument, his face a mask of concentration. He shakes his head slightly. "The bones are shattered," he says, his voice low and final. There is no magic to fix this. He cannot set bones that have been pulverized into fragments. He slathers the entire hand in a thick, greenish paste of honey and herbs, a potent barrier against the spirits of infection. Then, with practiced efficiency, he wraps the hand tightly in clean strips of linen, fashioning a thick, padded bundle. The immediate treatment is over. Ibby's working life, however, is finished. The healer looks at him, then at you. He will not hold a mallet again. The words hang in the air, a sentence far worse than any beating. An unproductive worker is a mouth with no hands. Ibby may be reassigned to the most menial of tasks, carrying water, if he is lucky, but his days as a quarryman are over. His ability to earn a full ration is gone. He has become a burden. You leave him there, his face pale with pain and a new, deeper fear. As you walk back towards the pit alone, the roar of the work seems louder, more menacing. You are reminded that the pyramid does not just demand your sweat. It is always ready to accept a sacrifice of blood and bone. You return to your spot at the rock face, your heart a cold, heavy stone in your chest. The image of Ibi's ruined hand is burned into your mind. You look at your own hands, at the calloused fingers wrapped around the smooth, worn wood of your mallet. It feels different now, heavier, more menacing. It is not just a tool. It is a weapon that makes no distinction between stone and bone. Bach gives you a hard look, a silent command to make up for the lost time, for the lost man. You have no choice but to pick up your chisel and rejoin the terrible orchestra. You place the chisel tip against the white limestone. You lift the mallet, you strike, and the sound returns. It is the sound that defines this place, the sound that will echo in your skull long after you have left for the day. It is a complex, two-part sound. First, the dull, resonant thud of the wooden mallet head striking the top of the chisel. It's a sound of pure force, of focused intent. Immediately following it is the sharp, high-pitched crack as the metal edge of the chisel bites into the stone, a sound of violent surgical fracture. Thud, crack, thud, crack, thud, crack. This is the heartbeat of the quarry. You fall into its rhythm. The work is too strenuous, the day too long to think about every single blow. Your body takes over. Your mind begins to drift. The repetitive motion, the constant percussive sound, it creates a trance. It is a state of deliberate emptiness, a shield against the crushing reality of your situation. You stop thinking about the searing heat, about the gnawing hunger in your belly, about the image of Ibi's blood on the white dust. There is only the rhythm. Your arm becomes a pendulum. Your world shrinks to the space between the head of the mallet and the top of the chisel. Thud, crack, thud, crack. This trance is a mercy. It is what allows you to endure the unendurable. It dissolves the hours, turning a day of torment into a series of dreamlike, repeated motions. But this mercy has a sharp edge. The trance is a liar. It whispers that the rhythm is safe, that it is eternal. It lulls you into a state of automaticity, and that is when the danger is greatest. Lost in the hypnotic beat, your focus wavers for a fraction of a second. Your hand, placing the chisel, is a hair's breadth from where it should be. Your swing, which you have made 10,000 times, is slightly off-center. The mallet head does not strike the chisel squarely. It glances off the edge with a sickening, woody smack. The chisel leaps from your grasp. The full force of your blow, meant for the stone, instead smashes the head of your mallet directly against the rock face, just inches from your left hand. A shockwave runs up your arm. Splinters of wood fly past your face. The trance is shattered. Adrenaline, cold and sharp, floods your body. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You stare wide-eyed at your left hand, still pressed against the stone. It is untouched, whole. You wiggle your fingers, a desperate, silent confirmation. They obey. You look at the deep, fresh dent in the rock where your mallet struck, and you see with horrifying clarity Ibi's crushed fingers. That was how close you were. One beat out of time. One careless swing. You take a ragged breath, the thick, dusty air doing little to calm you. You listen. For the first time, you are not just hearing the sound of your own work, but the sound of the entire quarry. It is a hailstorm of 1,000 mallets, a symphony of destruction. It is the sound of a mountain being eaten alive, one thud, crack at a time. It is the sound of lives being risked, and sometimes lost in the name of the same relentless rhythm. You pick up your chisel again, your hand trembling slightly. The sound of the mallet is no longer a soothing lullaby. It is a warning. It is the sound of the thin, fragile line between you and the fate of Ibi. The sun is no longer climbing. It hangs directly overhead, a white-hot eye, in a bleached blue sky, punishing the earth with its full, unforgiving power. The surface of the limestone is now too hot to touch for more than a second. It is the peak of the day's agony. And then the signal comes. A different blast from a horn, a single sustained note that means stop. The effect is instantaneous and absolute. 1,000 mallets fall silent at once. The violent percussive heartbeat of the quarry ceases. The silence that rushes in to fill the void is a physical thing, so sudden and so complete that it makes you dizzy. It is a deafening quiet, broken only by the low whistle of the wind across the stone ledges and the collective groan of thousands of men surrendering to their exhaustion. The ringing in your ears, a permanent echo of the mallet song, is now the loudest thing you can hear. There is no dining hall, no shaded pavilion. There is only the desperate primal search for shade. You and your crew, moving like old men, shuffle towards the base of a massive, half-cut block of stone. The shadow it casts is a sharp, black rectangle of salvation on the blindingly white ground. It is the most valuable piece of real estate in this entire hellscape. You collapse into it, your back pressing against the hard, vertical face of the block. The relief of being out of the direct sun is so profound it feels like drinking cool water. The men around you do the same, slumping to the ground, heads bowed, too weary to even speak. Your lunch is not brought to you. You have been carrying it all morning, a small, lumpy bundle tied to your waist. You unwrap the rough linen cloth. Inside is your midday ration. It is another loaf of bread identical to the one you had at dawn, small, dark, and dense. But beside it lies the prize, the treasure that has made the morning's work bearable to contemplate. An onion. You hold it in your hand for a moment. Its skin is dry and papery, a beautiful golden brown. You crack it open with your thumbs, the layers splitting, with a satisfying crisp snap. The sharp, clean, almost spicy scent cuts through the thick, dusty air and makes your mouth water instantly. It smells of life, of the earth, of something other than stone and sweat. You take your bread and your onion, and you eat. The first bite is of the bread alone. It is a familiar, joyless experience. The texture is gritty, the taste bland and slightly sour. It is fuel, nothing more. Then you take a bite of the raw onion. The flavor explodes in your mouth. It is a violent, shocking, beautiful sensation. It is intensely pungent, eye-wateringly sharp, but with an underlying current of sweetness. It is a fire that scours your palate clean of the taste of dust. The crunch is loud in your own head. Then you take another bite of bread, and this time the bland grain is transformed, elevated by the lingering, fiery taste of the onion. This combination is the single greatest pleasure of your day. It is a small, fierce joy in a vast landscape of misery. You eat slowly, savoring every mouthful. You look at the other men in your crew. They too are eating with a quiet, focused intensity. Kenty peels his onion layer by layer, eating it with a reverence usually reserved for a temple offering. You notice the empty space where Ibby would have sat. His laughter is missing from the group. His ration is missing from the world. A quiet, somber mood settles over your small patch of shade. You are all survivors, sharing a meal in the shadow of the great devouring beast. The break is a cruel mirage. It feels like it has only just begun when Bach the foreman stirs. He has finished his own meal and is on his feet. "Up," he grunts, kicking the soul of a man who has dozed off. The stone is waiting. A collective groan, a curse muttered under the breath. You take the last bite of your onion, its fiery taste, a memory you try to hold on to. The brief armistice is over. You have been refueled. Now you must return to the furnace and face the long, hot downward slope of the afternoon. The afternoon is a different kind of torment from the morning. The sun, now descending, seems to concentrate its heat, baking the very air you breathe. The memory of your midday meal is long gone, and the dull, gnawing hunger has returned. But it is thirst that truly commands you. The single cup of water from the break feels like a distant dream. Your body craves moisture calories, and more than anything, a moment of escape from the sharp, brutal reality of the afternoon's labor. It craves beer. The state provides its ration, the sour, thin liquid you drank at dawn. That is your wage. But within the vast machine of the worksite, a smaller, more intricate economy breathes. There's no coin here. Coin is an abstract idea for merchants in far-off cities. Here the economy is real, tangible. It is the economy of the barter. A well-made flint knife might be worth a pair of woven sandals. A skilled bit of carving on a tool handle might earn you an extra portion of dried fish. A man's skill, a lucky find, a moment of foresight, these are the only forms of wealth. And you today are wealthy. Tucked into a small leather pouch at your waist is your capital. It is not something you made. It is something you found. Weeks ago, while clearing rubble from an older part of the quarry, your hand closed around a small ridged stone. When you brushed away the dust, you saw it was a fossil. A perfect, spiral-shaped seashell turned to stone millions of years ago when this desert was an ocean floor. It is useless for building. It is too small for a tool. But it is beautiful. It is rare. It holds the magic of the ancient past. And to the right person, it has value. The opportunity arrives with a cloud of white dust. A crew of plaster mixers, their bodies and faces caked in white gypsum, are brought to a nearby section to prepare mortar. Among them is a man you recognize from your village, a man named Pepe. Pepe is known for two things: being lazy and brewing surprisingly good beer with dates he acquires through his own clever trades. Slung over his shoulder is a small personal water skin, and you know from the way he handles it that it does not contain water. This is a delicate dance. You cannot shout across the worksite. You cannot abandon your post. You must wait. You continue your work, the rhythmic thud crack of your tools. But your eyes keep flicking over to where Pepe is working. Finally, a momentary lull as your foreman Buck is distracted by a problem further down the line. This is your chance. You catch Pepe's eye. You give a slight, almost imperceptible nod towards a secluded area, a space between two giant discarded blocks of stone. He understands. You meet in the shadows, the roar of the quarry slightly muted here. The air is thick with conspiracy. The conversation is sparse-coded. The sun is a cruel master today, you begin. He grunts, wiping sweat from his brow. It makes a man's throat dry. You do not speak further. You simply reach into your pouch and pull out the fossil. You place it on the palm of your hand and hold it out. The sunlight catches its perfect, spiraling ridges. It seems to glow with an inner light. Pepe's eyes widen slightly. He is not a man given to wonder, but he recognizes value. He picks it up, feels its weight, its strange, pleasing texture. He looks from the fossil to his water skin. The silent negotiation begins. He holds up his clay cup, and with his thumb indicates a small measure, maybe half a cup. You shake your head slowly. No, the stone is worth more. He frowns, considering. He values his beer, but the fossil is a true curiosity. He could trade it for something even better later. He capitulates, giving a short, sharp nod. He indicates a full cup. You nod back. The deal is struck. He unslings his water skin, uncorks the wooden stopper, and carefully pours a full measure of dark, sweet-smelling beer into your cup. You hand him the fossil. It disappears into his pouch. The transaction is complete. You retreat to the shadows, your back to the worksite, and drink your prize. The beer is cool and sweet, a world away from the sour state ration. You can taste the rich flavor of dates. The effect is immediate, a pleasant spreading warmth in your belly. The sharp edges of your pain begin to soften. The screaming ache in your muscles recedes to a dull hum. This is more than hydration. It is a shield. A small, secret victory. You have used your wits to buy a moment of comfort in a world that offers none. The risk of being caught only makes the taste sweeter. You finish the cup, the warmth settling deep inside you, and return to your post. The stone is still there, the sun is still hot, but you face them now with a small, secret fire of your own. The warm, pleasant buzz from your bartered beer has long since faded, replaced by the familiar, deep-boned weariness of the late afternoon. Your mind is dull, your movements automatic. You are part of a small group tasked with clearing a section of smaller rubble, the cast-off debris from the master quarrymen. It is tedious, back-straining work, but it is less demanding than carving the main rock face. You reach down your hand, moving without thought, to pick up a fist-sized piece of limestone, and then fire. A sudden sharp searing pain explodes in the fleshy part of your thumb. It is a pain so intense and so immediate that it feels like you have been touched with a red-hot needle from a blacksmith's forge. You cry out a short, sharp gasp of agony and snatch your hand back as if the stone itself were burning. You stare at your thumb, uncomprehending for a second. And then you see it. A tiny, almost invisible red mark already beginning to swell. On the ground, a small, pale yellow creature, no bigger than your thumb, scurries away from the disturbed rock and vanishes into a crack with terrifying speed. A scorpion. A cold dread, far more chilling than the morning air, washes over you, instantly extinguishing the oppressive heat of the afternoon. This is not the understandable danger of a falling rock or a misplaced mallet. This is not an injury that can be splinted and bound. This is poison, a secret unseen enemy that is now inside you, in your blood. Everyone knows the stories. The strong man who is stung in the morning and is a cold corpse by nightfall, the fever, the convulsions, the paralysis of the lungs. The scorpion is the desert's most feared assassin. The men around you have stopped working. They saw you cry out, saw you pull your hand back. Old Kenty shuffles over his face, etched with a deep, grim concern. A scorpion, he whispers, his voice raspy. You can only nod, your mouth suddenly too dry to form words. The pain is no longer a sharp point. It has become a throbbing, burning fire that is already spreading from your thumb into your hand. Kenty looks at the sting, his eyes narrowed. He begins to murmur a low, ancient-sounding chant, an appeal to the goddess Serke, she who holds power over the creatures that sting, she who can close the throat of the scorpion. It is a desperate, flimsy shield against a potent venom. The foreman, Bach, arrives, his face a thundercloud. He glances at your hand, then at your face, which must be pale with terror. A scorpion sting is not like a broken bone. It is chaos. It is a matter for the gods. He makes a swift decision. Get him out of here, he orders two other men. Take him to the main camp, now. You are being half dragged, half led away from the worksite. Your legs feel unsteady, and it is not just from the day's labor. A wave of dizziness has washed over you. Your hand feels both numb and on fire, a bizarre and terrifying combination. The burning sensation is beginning to creep up your arm. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. Is this the venom? Or is it your own fear poisoning you? Just as surely, you cannot tell the difference. The sounds of the quarry begin to fade, behind you, muffled and distant. Your world has shrunk to the throbbing, incandescent pain in your hand and the frantic, terrified beat of your own heart. You have faced the overseer's authority, the weight of the stone, the heat of the sun. But this is a new kind of enemy, one that fights from the inside. You are utterly, completely helpless. As they lead you away from the pit, your fate is no longer in your own hands, but in the hands of your gods, the strength of your own body, and the slow, insidious work of a single drop of poison. The two men supporting you are pulling you away from the chaotic heart of the quarry towards the more orderly periphery of the great worksite. Here the ground is flatter, and there are designated pathways. The air, while still dusty, is clearer. This is the administrative zone, the brain that directs the muscle of the 10,000 laborers. This is the world of the scribes. You are led past a shaded pavilion, a simple structure of wooden posts and a roof of woven reeds, but it seems like a palace compared to the shelters of the workers. It is an island of clean, quiet order in an ocean of sweaty, chaotic labor. Here there are no heavy tools, no blocks of stone. There are stacks of reddish-brown papyrus scrolls, neat piles of ostraka shards of pottery used for quick notes, and palettes holding cakes of black and red ink. The men who occupy this space are as different from you as a hawk is from an ox. They are the scribes. They sit cross-legged on reed mats, their backs straight, a wooden board resting across their laps. Their heads are shaved and oiled, gleaming in the shade. Their linen kilts are starkly white, unsoiled by dust or sweat. Their hands are smooth and uncalloused, their fingers stained only with ink. They are the literate, the educated, the memory of the entire project. They wield a power far greater than any foreman's whip or overseer's glare. They wield the power of the written word. As you are half carried past their pavilion, one of them looks up from his work. He does not see you as a man in agony. He sees an irregularity, a disruption to the day's planned workflow. He raises a hand not in greeting, but as a command to halt. His voice is calm, clear, and carries an effortless authority. What is this? He asks his question, directed not at you, but at the men holding you up. Scorpion Master, one of your helpers replies, his voice full of a deference you never hear in the quarry. The scribe's expression does not change. There is no flicker of sympathy, no alarm. There is only a cool, professional assessment. He puts down the scroll he was working on and picks up a piece of ostrakhan. He dips the tip of his reed pen into a small pot of black ink, his movements economical and precise. Name, he asks, his eyes now on you, but they are not seeing your pain or your fear. They are simply gathering data, You struggle to speak, your throat tight with fear and the effects of the venom. You? My name is Yusef, you manage to rasp. Crew leader, back. Location of incident, West Quarry Face, one of your helpers answers for you. With each answer, the scribe's hand moves across the pottery shard, leaving a trail of beautiful flowing, incomprehensible symbols. The elegant curves and sharp lines of the hieratic script are a language of gods and kings, a secret code that holds the entire world together. And in this moment, that code is describing you. It is reducing your terror, the fire in your veins, the potential end of your life, into a neat, dispassionate entry in an administrative log. Worker, Yusef. Crew of Bak, stung by scorpion. Work halted. You stare at the symbols. They are a magical representation of your suffering, yet they contain none of it. Your personal tragedy has been transformed into an impersonal data point. It is an entry in a ledger of profit and loss, a calculation of work hours lost to the project. This, you realize, is the ultimate power. Not the overseer's rod, but the scribe's pen. The power to record, to define, to decide who and what is important enough to be written down. And you are only important as a problem to be noted. Having finished his notation, the scribe places the ostracon on a neat pile with others like it. He has already forgotten you. He gives a curt, dismissive wave of his hand. Carry on, he says, already reaching for his main scroll. Your ordeal was a momentary administrative task, a footnote in his day. The men pull you away from the pavilion, back into the world of physical sensation. But a new kind of poison now works its way through you, a cold understanding of your own insignificance in the grand literate machine of the Pharaoh. You are no longer in the open air. The blinding glare of the sun has been replaced by a cool, deep gloom. You have been brought to a place on the edge of the village, a long, low building of mud brick set apart from the family homes. This is the House of Healing. It is a place of quiet, desperate hope. The air inside is thick and heavy, a complex tapestry of smells, the sweetness of crushed dates and honey, the sharp medicinal tang of potent herbs, the smoky perfume of incense burned to placate the gods, and underlying it all the faint sour smell of sickness and human sweat. You are laid upon a reed mat on the floor. Other men lie on mats around you, their bodies still, their breathing shallow. Some are bandaged, others are shivering with fever. This is where the workers come when the quarry has broken them in ways that cannot be fixed in the field clinic. A different man approaches you now. He is older than the quarry, Swan W. his face. A network of deep lines, his eyes holding a weary, ancient wisdom. This is the chief healer. He unwraps the bandage from your hand without a word. The sight is horrifying. Your entire hand is swollen to twice its normal size. A grotesque, puffy claw, the skin, a mottled, angry purple. The burning has spread past your elbow, a visible red track, marking the venom's path up your arm. The healer's face remains impassive. He has seen this many times before. He knows that his skill can only do so much. He prepares a poultice of dark clay and crushed leaves, muttering to himself as he works. He smears the cool, gritty paste over the sting, and the relief is instant, though you know it is only skin deep. Then he hands you a cup filled with a dark, bitter liquid. Drink, he commands. You obey, gagging on the foul, bitter taste. It is a brew of powerful herbs meant to fight the poison from within. But the true treatment is about to begin. The healer sits cross-legged beside you. He closes his eyes, and he begins to chant. It is not a prayer, but an incantation, a story of power. His voice is a low, monotonous drone, weaving a web of magic around you. He tells the story of the god Horus, who as a child was stung by a scorpion sent by the jealous god Set. He recounts how the goddess Isis, Horus's mother, used her great magic to draw the poison out, commanding it by its secret name. The healer is not just telling a story. He is trying to recreate the myth. He is trying to become the voice of Isis, to command the poison inside you to obey. The world begins to dissolve. The chanting, the bitter herbs, the venom itself, they all conspire to pull you under into a deep, feverish darkness. You are adrift on a black, silent river. The pain in your arm becomes a separate entity, a serpent of fire coiling around your bones. You begin to see things in the darkness. You see the scorpion, its tail arched magnified to the size of a crocodile. You see the indifferent face of the scribe, his pen scratching your fate into a piece of clay. You see the worried, tear-streaked face of your wife, her image wavering like a reflection in disturbed water. The sound of mallets on stone echoes in your mind, a frantic, terrifying heartbeat. Your body begins to shake, first a tremor, then a violent, uncontrollable shivering that rattles your teeth. You are burning with fever, yet you feel colder than you have ever felt in your life. You are losing the battle. You can feel your consciousness, yourself, starting to fray at the edges. A strange peace begins to settle over you. The pain is receding. The fear is fading, replaced by a profound, welcoming emptiness. You are no longer fighting. You are letting go. Is this it? Is this the boat of Ra, come to carry you to the underworld? The field of reeds feels close, a silent, peaceful land just beyond the veil of darkness. And then a shift. Deep within you, something turns. The tide of the fever, having reached its peak, begins to recede. A wave of sweat, sudden and drenching, pours from every pore of your body, soaking the mat beneath you. The violent shivering subsides into a weak trembling. The nightmarish visions fade, leaving only a deep, profound exhaustion. You take a breath. It is a true breath, deep and clear. The fiery serpent in your arm is gone, replaced by a dull, throbbing ache. Slowly, you open your eyes. A thin, gray sliver of dawn light is filtering through a high window in the wall. The healer is still there, asleep in his chair, a silent, weary sentinel. You are alive. You have been to the land of the dead and have been turned back at the gate. You have survived. But as you stare at your swollen, purpled hand in the dim light, you know that a part of you was left behind in that feverish darkness, a toll paid to the scorpion god for your life. 3 days have passed since the scorpion's fire burned through you. 3 days spent in a haze of fever, pain, and sleep. You have survived. The great convulsive shivers are gone. The terrifying visions have faded. The swelling in your hand has begun to subside, though it remains a useless, throbbing appendage wrapped in clean linen. You are weak, your muscles feel like water, but your mind is clear for the first time. You are no longer on the brink of death. You are now simply a resident of this house of quiet suffering, adrift in a sea of time, waiting for your body to mend. In this enforced stillness, you begin to notice things. You are removed from the thunderous roar of the quarry, but you are not deaf to the hum of the village, and the hum has changed. There is a new current of anxiety running beneath the surface of things, a tension that has nothing to do with the usual dangers of the worksite. You see it in the healers as they move between mats, their faces drawn and worried. You hear it in the voices of the women who come to visit their injured husbands, their whispers sharp and fearful. Because you are quiet, because you are still, you become invisible. You become a repository for overheard words, for fragments of conversations not meant for you. A healer mutters to another as they grind herbs. The main granary is nearly empty. The barge from Perilous was due before the last new moon. A visiting wife whispers to her husband on the mat next to yours, her voice cracking, "I had to trade my copper mirror for half a sack of emmer flour." The merchants know. They know the state stores are bare. Another injured man, his leg splinted, tells you his brother came from the worksite. The scribes cut the beer ration again, he says, his voice low and angry. They tell us to work for the glory of the Pharaoh, but glory does not fill a child's stomach. Slowly, painfully, you piece together the terrible truth. The lifeblood of your entire community, the steady, reliable flow of grain from the fertile lands of the Delta, has stopped. The state, the great provider, the entity whose rhythm dictates every aspect of your life, has failed in its most sacred duty. The rations are being cut. The men are being asked to move mountains on empty stomachs. The delicate balance, the ma'at that holds your world together, is beginning to fracture. A new kind of fear, different from the scorpion's venom, begins to work its way through you. It is the cold, gnawing fear of a father. Your family, your wife and children are out there dependent on a ration you are no longer earning. You had trusted in the system, trusted that your credit, your years of labor would ensure they were provided for. But what if the system itself is starving? The thought is more terrifying than any fever dream. You feel a profound helplessness, a rage that has nowhere to go, trapped in your weak, recovering body. Later that evening, in the deep twilight of the infirmary, you hear two men talking in low, urgent whispers from the far corner of the room. They are masons, their bodies powerful even in injury. They refuse to work, one says. The crew on the southern ramp, they just sat down. They held up their empty hands and they shouted, "We are hungry." The other man makes a sound, a mixture of fear and excitement. And what did the overseers do? What could they do? Beat them. A beaten man works no harder. They sent for the high scribe. The whole worksite is whispering. There is talk of a hesb, a stoppage, a real one. You lie perfectly still on your mat, the words hanging in the dusty air. A strike. It is a word spoken only in hushed tones, a legendary, desperate act. It is the one and only weapon the thousands of powerless men have against the infinite power of the Pharaoh. It is an act of collective defiance that could bring down the wrath of the entire state, or, just possibly, it could force the scribes to open the emergency stores. You survived the scorpion, only to awaken into a world on the brink of a new kind of poison, hunger, anger, and the terrifying, unpredictable chaos of rebellion. You lie on your mat in the house of healing, staring at the thatched ceiling. Your body is a prison of weakness. Your hand throbs with a dull, persistent ache. Outside, the world goes on. The work continues. But you are separate from it, a ghost haunting the edges of your own life. And in this forced stillness, the memories come. They rise up unbidden, as vivid and as real as the mat beneath your back. Today, you remember the sledges. The memory begins with a sense of immense scale. A single colossal block of limestone, newly wrestled from the quarry face, rests on a massive wooden sledge. It is the size of a small house, its weight an obscene violation of the natural order of things. It is a monster tamed and bound, but still radiating a palpable sense of its own immense inertia. Around it, your crew and 3 others are assembled, nearly 100 men, looking like ants beside the great beast. Your task is not to carve this stone, but to move it. You are a puller. Thick ropes, woven from papyrus fibers and coarse as a stone file, are lashed to the front of the sledge. You and 20 other men line up along one of these ropes, taking your position. You wrap the end around your hands, the rough fibers digging into your calloused palms. You can feel the tension in the line, a direct connection between you and the dead weight of the stone. The path ahead of the sledge is a carefully prepared track. A team of men lays down wooden beams one after another, creating a rail for the sledge to slide upon. And ahead of them all is one of the most important men in the entire operation, a single worker who carries a water skin. He walks backwards just ahead of the sledge, pouring a steady stream of water onto the sand and wood. It is this thin film of moisture, this simple lubrication, that will make the impossible possible. Then, the chanter. He climbs atop the great block itself, a small human figure on the vast stone plateau. He is the heartbeat of the operation. He begins his chant, a simple 2-part rhythm, his voice powerful and carrying over the open space. Hey! He calls a long, drawn-out note that allows you all to prepare to brace your feet in the sand, to lean into the rope. Yup, he shouts a sharp, explosive command. On that final syllable, you pull. 100 men pull as one. The world dissolves into pure, agonizing effort. You lean forward until your back is almost parallel with the ground. Your leg muscles scream. Your spine feels as if it might snap in two. The rope bites deep into your hands. For a long, terrible second, nothing happens. The stone resists with the weight of a mountain. The collective grunt of 100 straining men is a raw animal sound of pure exertion. And then, with a deep, shuddering groan from the wooden sledge beneath it, the stone moves. It only slides a few feet, a slow, grudging surrender. But it is a victory so profound, it feels as if you have shifted the world itself. The chanter begins again immediately. Ha! Yup, another pull. Another few feet. This is how the pyramid is built. Not by magic, but by this. By the coordinated, agonizing, inch-by-inch toil of countless men bound together by rope and rhythm. It is brutal, dangerous work. A snapped rope can cut a man in two. A slipping sledge can crush a dozen. Every moment is a balance between immense force and fragile human bodies. The memory fades. The phantom pain of the rope in your hands merges with the real, throbbing ache of the scorpion's sting. You are back on your mat, your body slick with a sweat, not born of fever but of remembered toil. And now you understand the whispers of the strike with a new, terrifying clarity. You remember the colossal, all-consuming effort it takes to move just one stone. You remember the absolute necessity of a body fueled by bread and beer. And you think of the men out there, now, your friends, your crew, being asked to perform this same impossible task on dwindling rations. The thought is not just unjust, it is a death sentence. The whispers are not about greed, they are about survival. You shift on your reed mat, the rough fibers scratching against your skin. The memory of the sledges of the immense horizontal struggle has exhausted you. But your mind, restless and trapped, does not stop there. It follows the journey of the stone. Moving the block across the flat desert floor was only the first chapter. The true test, the true terror began when the ground started to rise. The memory shifts, and you are no longer on the sand. You are on the ramp. It is a colossal structure in its own right, a great artery of packed earth rubble and gypsum plaster clinging to the side of the growing pyramid. It winds its way upwards in a gentle, ever-climbing spiral. But when you are on it, there is nothing gentle about it. It is a narrow, treacherous path to the sky. There are no guardrails, no safety ropes. There is only the steeply angled surface of the ramp, the open air, and the dizzying drop to the ground below. Gravity, which was once just a force that made the stone heavy, is now your sworn enemy. It pulls at the sledge with a malevolent, unrelenting force, trying to drag you and the 100 other men back down into the dust. The work is no longer just a pull. It is a desperate clawing fight for every single upward inch. Your legs burn with a fire that makes the quarry work seem like a pleasant stroll. Your lungs feel as if they are about to burst. The strain is so immense that you can feel the blood pounding in your temples, a frantic drumbeat against the rhythm of the chanter. And the height. At first, it is manageable. But as you climb higher, winding around the face of the great monument, the ground falls away. You dare not look down. A single glance is enough to make the world spin, to make your stomach lurch with vertigo. The sprawling worksite, the village, the thousands of other workers, they shrink, becoming a child's play set a distant, unreal map. The only reality is the narrow path beneath your feet, the coarse rope in your hands, the sweating back of the man in front of you, and the vast, empty sky. The chanter's voice is different up here. It is strained, more desperate. The foreman's shouts are sharper. The focus of every man is absolute. A moment of lost coordination, a single man slipping on a patch of loose gravel, could spell disaster for everyone. You remember a moment when the man ahead of you stumbled. For one heart-stopping second, the entire line wavered. You felt the rope go slack, then snap taut with the man's dead weight. A collective gasp went through the line. The sledge, for a terrifying instant, slid backwards, a horrifying groan of wood and stone. The foreman screamed, "Hold, hold!" You dug your feet in your muscles, screaming your body a desperate anchor against the pull of the abyss. The line held. The man regained his footing. The crisis passed in a second. But the cold sweat of that moment lingers in your memory now, chilling you on your sickbed. Reaching the top of the ramp, the current working level of the pyramid was a deliverance. You would pull the sledge onto the flat, newly laid surface of the monument's core, and the relief was so profound it was a physical sensation. You were on solid ground again, 100 feet in the air with the wind whipping around you. The masons and the setters would take over then, their precise work a world away from the brutal, primal struggle of the ascent. You shudder on your mat, the phantom vertigo, making the quiet infirmary seem to sway. And you think of the men now, the men whose rations have been cut, whose bodies are weakened by hunger. You realize they are not just being asked to endure the quarry's dust or the sledge's weight. They are being asked to climb this sky road, to fight gravity, to dangle over the edge of death, all with the hollow ache of hunger in their bellies. The whispers of a strike are no longer just whispers. They are the only sane response to a demand that has crossed the line from brutal to suicidal. You lie on the mat, your body a landscape of aches. The memories of the work have been flowing through you, the weight of the stone, the terror of the ramps. They are heavy memories, but your mind has grown accustomed to their weight. There is another memory, though, one you usually keep buried deep, locked away in a dark corner of your mind. But in your weakened state, the lock has broken. And the memory spills out. You are high on the pyramid, so high that the world below has lost all its detail. The wind is a living thing up here, a constant powerful force that pushes at you, trying to unbalance you. It whips dust into your eyes and snatches the breath from your lungs. Your crew is not pulling today. You are setters. Your job is to guide a newly arrived block into its final resting place, a task that requires less brute force than the ramps, but an even greater amount of control and precision. The block, a massive casing stone of fine white limestone, hangs suspended from ropes just inches above its designated spot. Your team uses long, heavy wooden levers to nudge it, to pivot it, to shift it by less than the width of a finger until its edges align perfectly with the block beside it. The work is tense, quiet, focused. A man from another crew, a man named Nebu, is working near the outer edge. You know him. You have shared bread, with him traded jokes in the evening. He has a wife and a young son. He is on a long lever, his body thrown forward, putting all his weight into pushing the stone, that final, crucial fraction. He is strong, experienced. It happens for no reason, and for 1,000 reasons. Perhaps the wood of his lever had a hidden flaw. Perhaps the purchase point on the great stone was not secure. Perhaps a sudden gust of wind caught him off balance. The lever, under immense pressure, slips. It does not break. It simply loses its grip, its force suddenly and completely gone. That force which was pushing against the stone now throws Nebu's body forward into the empty space where the stone's resistance used to be. It happens in the space between one heartbeat and the next. There is no slow slide, no desperate scramble. One moment he is there, a man of muscle and sweat straining at his task. The next, he is gone. His feet leave the edge of the pyramid, and for a terrifying, unnatural instant, he seems to hang in the air, his arms windmilling against the vast, empty sky. A look of pure, uncomprehending surprise is on his face. It is not even terror yet. He has not had time to understand. A single, sharp cry is torn from his throat, but the wind seizes it and whips it away into nothing. And then he falls. His body becomes a small, dark shape, tumbling end over end, shrinking with astonishing speed against the pale brown canvas of the desert floor. For a long moment nobody moves. Nobody breathes. Every man on the platform is frozen, staring at the empty space where Nebu had been. The only sound is the whistling of the wind. Then a few men rush to the edge, you among them, and look down. It takes a long time to find him. He is a tiny, broken shape, a discarded toy, so small and insignificant against the vastness of the landscape. The spell is shattered by the foreman's voice, raw and furious. Back to work. Get back to the levers now. He is not a monster. He is a man with a job, and his job is to lay stones, not to mourn the dead. Grief is a luxury the pyramid does not permit. It is an inefficiency. Slowly, like men waking from a nightmare, you and the others turn from the edge. You pick up your levers. Your hands are shaking. The wood feels alien. You look at the faces of your crewmates, and you see your own white-faced shock and horror reflected back at you. The great stone, the cause of it all, is still there waiting. It is unmoved, uncaring. It demanded a price, and the price was paid. You place your lever back into position, your body a hollow shell, your mind replaying the image of the fall over and over. You understand then, in a way you never have before. The pyramid is not just being built with your sweat. It is being built with your lives. And if you fall, another man will be brought up to take your place, and the work will go on without missing a single terrible beat. The memory fades, leaving you cold and shaking on your mat in the quiet of the infirmary. The finality of Nebu's death is a chilling contrast to your own fragile, painful survival. And you know with a certainty that freezes your soul that the men being asked to work hungry are not just risking their wages. They are being asked to stand on that same ledge next to that same hungry, indifferent stone. Night has fallen on the House of Healing. The torches have been extinguished, leaving only the faint silvery light of the moon filtering through the high windows. In the deep, quiet darkness, sleep will not come. Your body is healing, but your mind is restless walking old paths. The memories of the workday are complete, but one last journey remains. The memory of the walk home. It begins with the sound of the final horn. It is a different sound from the morning summons. It is a sound of release of permission. All across the great plateau, from the depths of the quarry to the highest level of the pyramid, there is a collective echoing clatter as 10,000 men drop their tools at once. It is a sound of a great beast shedding its skin, of 1,000 chains falling to the ground. For a moment, a profound silence hangs in the air, a shared collective sigh of survival. The day is over. You have lived through it. The descent from the high places is a slow, treacherous business. Your legs, now shaking with fatigue, protest every downward step. Tired men are careless men, and more than one has been lost on this final journey of the day. But gravity, your sworn enemy all afternoon, is now a weary friend, pulling you gently back towards the earth. As you reach the desert floor and begin the long walk away from the worksite, the pyramid undergoes a final, cruel transformation. The sun, now a bleeding red-orange smear on the horizon, catches the western face of the monument. The limestone, which was a source of blinding white glare all day, now absorbs the sunset's colors, glowing with a soft, internal fire. It looks beautiful, serene, almost holy. It is a lie. You stare at its impossible beauty, this monument built from your pain and the bones of men like Nebu, and you feel a profound hollow ache that has nothing to do with your muscles. The walk home is the mirror image of the walk to the quarry. In the morning, you walked in silence, your mind filled with a quiet dread. Now you walk in a different kind of silence, the silence of utter, bone-deep exhaustion. There are no conversations, no jokes. The only sounds are the rhythmic, shuffling scrape of thousands of feet in the dust and the occasional dry, hacking cough. Your mind is a blessed, empty void. You are too tired to think of the dangers you have faced, too tired to worry about the morning to come. Your entire consciousness has been reduced to a single, primal instinct: put one foot in front of the other. You are a walking ghost, covered head to foot in a thick gray mantle of dust and dried sweat. Your hands are raw, your back is a solid, unmoving block of pain. You follow the silhouette of the man in front of you, a dark shape against the deepening twilight sky, where the first sharp stars are beginning to appear. Then you smell it, a faint, distant scent on the evening breeze. It is the smell of wood smoke, the smell of cooking fires, the smell of life. Your head lifts. In the distance, you can see the warm, flickering lights of your village. It is a beacon of hope in the vast, indifferent darkness of the desert. As you draw closer, the sounds change. You can hear the low murmur of women's voices, the sharp cry of a baby, the familiar, comforting bleat of a goat. This is the world you work for. This is the world you are returning to. The memory is so sharp, so clear, that you can almost feel the familiar ground of your own alley beneath your feet. You can almost smell the scent of your own cooking fire, hear the sound of your own children's voices. But the memory ends at your doorway. It stops, and you are left staring into the darkness of the infirmary. You are not home. You are here. The exhaustion you remember was the price of returning to your family. This weakness you feel now is the price of being separated from them. You long for that walk, for that profound, aching weariness, if only it would lead you back to your own door. In the quiet of the house of healing, you have never felt more homeless. A week has passed since the scorpion. A week of lying on this mat, a spectator, to the quiet suffering of the house of healing. The fire of the venom has gone, leaving behind a deep, profound weakness, and a hand that remains a useless bandage club. You have moved from being a patient in crisis to being a patient in recovery, and the distinction is a subtle but important one. It means you are now allowed a visitor. You see her before she sees you. Your wife, Amunet. She stands hesitantly in the doorway, her eyes adjusting to the gloom, her face a mask of anxiety as she scans the rows of injured men. She is thinner than you remember from just a week ago, the bones in her face more prominent. There are new fine lines of worry etched around her eyes. When her gaze finally lands on you, a wave of relief so powerful it is almost painful washes over her features. She hurries to your side, her footsteps silent on the packed earth floor. She kneels beside your mat, and for a long moment she says nothing. She just looks at you, her eyes taking in your pale face, your matted hair, your bandaged hand. Her relief is mingled with a deep, sorrowful pity that makes you feel a hot flush of shame. You are her husband, her provider, her protector, and you are lying here, broken and helpless. She reaches out and takes your good hand, her own hand, rough and calloused from her work-grinding grain and tending the home. Her touch is an anchor, the first truly comforting thing you have felt since the world fell apart. "You are alive," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "I am alive," you confirm, your own voice. A hoarse croak. You try to sit up a little to show her a strength you do not feel. "I am getting stronger." It is a lie, and you both know it. You ask the questions you have been dreading. "The children?" "They are well," she says, a little too quickly. "They miss their father. And the rations." "Is there enough?" Her eyes flicker away from yours for a second, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement that tells you everything. "The state provides," she says, reciting the official lie. "We are managing." The space between you on the infirmary floor, which should be filled with the simple relief of reunion, is suddenly crowded. It is crowded with the things you are not saying. It is crowded with the reality of the late grain shipments, with the hunger of your children, with the fear of the brewing strike. The low moans of the man on the mat next to you are a constant reminder that this intimate moment is a public performance played out in a room full of other men's tragedies. Amunet opens a small linen bundle she has been carrying. Inside is a small flat loaf of bread, denser and darker than the state-issued kind, and 3 dried figs. You stare at them. This is not a simple gift. This is a sacrifice. This is likely her own ration for the day, or something she acquired through a desperate trade. To bring this to you, she and your children will have eaten less. The weight of this small offering is heavier than any stone block. "You must eat," she says, her voice firm, trying to will her strength into you. "You must get your strength back. You eat because to refuse would be to dishonor her sacrifice. The bread is coarse, but the figs explode with a dark, honeyed sweetness in your mouth. You eat slowly, your heart a tight, painful knot in your chest. The visit is short. She cannot be away from the children for long. She squeezes your hand one last time, her eyes promising a strength that her weary face betrays. "I will come tomorrow," she says. You watch her walk away, a small, resilient figure, disappearing back into the harsh sunlight, and you are left alone again in the quiet, crowded room. The taste of the figs is still on your tongue, but it is no longer sweet. It tastes of worry, of love, and of the terrifying, heavy burden of being a father and a husband who can do nothing but lie here while his family begins to starve. 2 more days pass in the slow, monotonous rhythm of the House of Healing. You are now strong enough to sit up for a long time, to walk a few steps with the support of a healer. The pain in your hand has subsided to a constant dull throb. You are healing. The thought has been a small, flickering candle in the darkness of your confinement. But when your wife Amunet appears in the doorway again, that candle is instantly extinguished. The mask of strength she wore on her last visit has been shattered. Her hair is disheveled, her eyes are wide and red-rimmed with sleeplessness, and her face is pale with a terror that makes your own brush with death seem like a distant memory. She practically runs to your side, her breath coming in ragged sobs. She does not need to speak. You see the truth in her eyes, and a new cold fear, a fear far worse than the scorpion's venom, seizes you. It is Kenneman, she finally chokes out, speaking the name of your youngest son, a boy of 4 years. He has the fever. He has had it for 2 nights. He burns with the fire, but he shivers with the cold. The words strike you with a physical force. A child's fever. In this world, those 3 words are a potential death sentence. You are instantly flooded with images of your son, his laughter as he chases a chicken in the alley, the way he sleeps with one small hand curled into a fist, the feel of his small body in your arms. And now you can only imagine him lying on a mat, his body hot to the touch, his eyes glazed and unseeing. The helplessness you have felt this past week is nothing compared to the tidal wave of impotence that crashes over you now. He will not eat, Amunet continues, her voice breaking. I try to give him water, but he is too weak. I have prayed to Toweret until my throat is raw. I have prayed to bees to chase away the evil spirits, but the fever does not break. You look at her desperate, pleading face. She is looking to you for answers, for strength, for a solution. You are the man of the house, and you are useless. You are trapped on this mat, a broken worker, while your son is consumed by a fire. You cannot fight. You clench your good hand into a fist, your knuckles white, a surge of rage and despair so powerful it makes you want to scream. You are angry at the scorpion, at the gods, at your own weakness. Then, the second part of the horror dawns on you. Sickness must be fought. The village healers, the women who know the charms and the herbs, they must be compensated. Their knowledge is a valuable commodity, and you have nothing. Your family has nothing. You cannot even afford a proper offering for the gods, let alone the ingredients for a healing poultice. Your son may die not just from the fever, but from your own poverty. The thought is unendurable. A desperate idea flares in your mind, an idea born of pure panic. My tools, you say, your voice a harsh rasp. Amunet looks at you confused. My chisels, the copper ones, they are in the chest by the wall. Understanding, and then horror dawns on her face. A craftsman's tools are his soul. They are his livelihood, his identity, the very instruments of his future. To sell them is to admit that you have no future in your trade. No, she whispers, we cannot. We must, you insist, grabbing her arm with your good hand, your voice filled with a desperate energy. What good is a chisel if our son is gone? What good is a stoneworker with no child to feed? Take them, Amunet. Take them to the healer. Take them to the market. Trade them for a proper charm. Trade them for a magic spell. Trade them for a piece of fish to make a broth. Trade them for anything. Do you understand? She stares at you, tears streaming freely down her face now. She sees the terrible, necessary logic in your command. She nods a single, jerky motion. It is an act of shared desperation, a sacrifice of your entire future for the slim hope of your child's present. She rises her face now, a mask of grim, sorrowful purpose. She gives you one last haunted look, and then she is gone, leaving you in the suffocating quiet of the infirmary. You have given away the last piece of the man you used to be. You lie back, the strength draining out of you, and for the first time since you were a small boy, you pray. You pray with a desperate, hopeless sincerity, sending your words into the silent, dusty air, not for yourself, but for the small, feverish body of your son, Kenaman. The house of healing is dark and silent. Amunet is gone. Your tools are gone. Your strength is gone. All you are left with is the gnawing terror for your son, a helplessness so profound, it is a physical ache. You cannot be there to hold his hand, to wipe his brow, to whisper stories to him. You cannot fight the fever. You cannot work to pay a healer. You have only one action left. And so, in the deep, suffocating darkness, you pray. You do not send your prayers to the great gods of the state. Amun-Ra, the hidden one, is too busy guiding the sun across the sky. Osiris, king of the underworld, is a god for the dead. And your son is not dead yet. Your pleas are not for them. They are for the small personal gods, the ones who live in the corners of your own home, the ones who understand the daily fears of a family. First, you pray to Toweret. You close your eyes and build her image in your mind. She is a figure of terrifying power, a divine monster meant to frighten other monsters away. She has the head and body of a great pregnant hippopotamus, the most dangerous creature in the Nile. She has the powerful limbs of a lioness and the tail of a crocodile. She is a goddess made of nightmares, but all of her ferocity is bent towards a single purpose: protection. She is the guardian of women in childbirth and the fierce defender of young children. Your prayer is a raw, whispered bargain. Great One, you murmur into the darkness, your voice tight with unshed tears. She who is great, stand guard at my door. Let the demon of fever see your fearsome face and flee. I will make you an offering. A jar of beer, the best I can find. A carving of your sacred form. Anything. Just protect my son. Let him feel your strength. Be the guardian I cannot be. You imagine her a colossal, loving, monstrous presence standing over your small home, a living shield against the evils of the night. Then you turn your thoughts to Bees, the strange bandy-legged dwarf god, the protector of the household. You picture the small, worn amulet of him that hangs on a peg on your wall. His grotesque bearded face, his tongue sticking out his feather headdress. His ugliness is his weapon. It is a magical ugliness designed to make any demon or evil spirit recoil in fright. He is a divine clown, a joyful warrior, a dancer who stamps out snakes and scorpions from the home. The irony of praying to a scorpion killer is not lost on you, but your need is too great for pride. Be, Lord of the Dance Protector of the Hearth, you plead your good hand, clenching the rough fabric of your mat. Be in my house now. Dance your war dance in the room where my son sleeps. Make your terrible face. Brandish your knife. Let no evil thing pass the threshold. He is small and weak. Lend him your strange, joyful strength. Frighten the sickness from his body. This is not the calm, ordered prayer of a temple priest. This is a desperate, messy negotiation with the unseen. You feel the immense, agonizing distance between this mat and your son's side, and your words are the only bridge you can build to cross it. For a moment, a sliver of cold doubt enters your heart. Are you just whispering to the darkness? Are these gods just stories, carvings of wood and clay? You crush the doubt with a force of will. You cannot afford it. Belief is a tool, perhaps the only one you have left. To believe is to act. To despair is to surrender. And so you continue to pray, whispering their names over and over like a mantra, sending all of your fear, all of your hope, all of your Father's love out into the silent, uncaring night. You pray until your mind is empty and your spirit is exhausted, until you finally fall into a restless, shallow sleep, leaving the fate of your son in the hands of a pregnant hippopotamus and a laughing dwarf god. The days in the house of healing bleed into one another, each marked only by the slow changing of the light from the high windows. Your own body is slowly, painstakingly mending, but the atmosphere in the room is growing more sickly. It is not a sickness of the body but of the spirit. The grain barges have not come. The news from the village brought by visitors is always the same: smaller rations, rising tempers, a growing hungry desperation. The fragile peace of this sanctuary for the broken is beginning to fray. The trouble starts, as it so often does, over something small. On the mat across from you lies a man named Hori, a quarryman whose leg was crushed by a shifting block weeks ago. He is in constant grinding pain, and his bitterness has become a poison that infects the air around him. A new patient was brought in yesterday, a young man named Metchin, his arms and chest badly burned by a mishap with a pottery kiln. He is quiet, his face a mask of pain. This morning, a low, accusatory hiss cuts through the quiet. It is Hori, his voice a venomous whisper. "You took it." Metchin, the burned man, stirs. "Took what? My bread?" Hori snarls, pushing himself up on one elbow. "The piece my wife brought me. It was right there. I saw you looking at it." "I did not," Metchin replies, his voice weak but firm. "The rats, perhaps." Liar Hori's voice is suddenly loud, cracking with rage. "You think because I cannot walk, I am blind, I saw you." A thief smelling of smoke and ash. The argument explodes into the quiet room. Voices are raised, insults are thrown. It is ugly and pathetic. These are two men broken by their work, trapped in a room of misery, now turning on each other over a crust of bread. You watch from your mat, your heart sinking. You see the other men in the room react. Some turn their faces to the wall, trying to shut out the ugliness. Others watch with a weary, detached interest. No one intervenes. This is the hunger, you realize. This is what it does. It is a poison that makes every man an enemy, every neighbor a potential thief. It shrinks the world down to a single gnawing emptiness in the belly, and makes a morsel of food more valuable than a man's honor. Before the argument can escalate to blows, the chief healer enters the room. He takes in the scene with a single sweeping glance. He does not rush. He does not shout. He moves with a calm, deliberate authority that instantly silences the room. He walks to stand between the two men's mats. He looks first at Hori, the accuser. "Your leg gives you much pain." Hori, the healer, says, his voice soft but firm. "It is not a question." Hori, taken aback, can only grunt in affirmation. The healer then turns to Metjen. "And your burns steal your sleep." Metjen nods, his eyes wide. The healer looks from one man to the other. "We are a house of broken men. The world outside is hungry and afraid. Is that fear to be our master in here as well? Are we to fight over crumbs while the granary doors remain shut? Will this argument heal your leg? Hori, will it cool your burns, Metjen?" He does not wait for an answer. He reaches into a pouch at his own waist and pulls out a small flat cake of dates and grain, his own food. He breaks it in two. He gives one half to Hori and the other half to Metjen. "Eat," he says, "and let there be peace in this room. Our fight is not with each other." He turns and walks away, his authority absolute. A shamed, sullen silence descends. Hori and Metjen do not look at each other, but the fire has gone out of them. They nibble at the food they have been given. The dispute has been settled not by discovering the truth of the theft, but by an act of wisdom and generosity that addressed the true cause, the gnawing hunger and the fear behind it. You lie on your mat, profoundly shaken. You have just seen a miniature of the great crisis unfolding outside. You have seen how quickly order can break down, how easily men can turn on one another. And you have seen that it takes a leader of great wisdom to restore the balance. But you know with a chilling certainty that there are not enough healers and not enough date cakes to quell the rising anger of 10,000 hungry men. Your days have taken on a new, grim rhythm, no longer the rhythm of the mallet, but the rhythm of healing. You wake, you are given a thin porridge of barley, and water, you lie on your mat, you sleep. Your body is a slow, patient project of repair. The portions of food are small, meant only to sustain life, not to build strength. A dull, constant hunger is your new companion, a hollow ache in the pit of your stomach. One afternoon, a new element enters your small world. It comes on the wind. At first, it is just a faint scent cutting through the usual infirmary smells of herbs and dust. But then it grows stronger, richer, and it is a smell so rare and so powerful, it makes your entire body react. It is the smell of roasting meat. It is an aroma you have not encountered in so long that it feels like a memory from another life. Your mouth dry and tasteless, moments before, floods with saliva. Your stomach, long sullen and quiet, gives a sharp, painful clench of pure animalistic desire. The smell is coming from the east, from the administrative quarters where the high scribes and chief architects live and work. They are not short of grain. They are not eating barley porridge. They are feasting. The scent is a key that unlocks a powerful memory. The last time you tasted meat. It was months ago during the great festival of Apet. The state, in a rare act of magnanimity, had decreed a feast day for the workers. Every man was issued a special ration, a piece of boiled goat swimming in a small bowl of rich fatty broth, along with a loaf of fine white bread. You remember carrying it home as if it were a solid gold ingot. You remember the look on your children's faces. You remember how you and Amunet cut the meat into small pieces so everyone could share equally. The memory of the taste is overwhelmingly vivid. The tenderness of the meat so different from the endless grind of coarse bread. The rich, savory flavor of the fat. The feeling of a truly full belly, a deep, warm satisfaction that was both a physical comfort and a spiritual one. For one day, you felt provided for, valued. For one day, you ate like a man, not just a beast of burden. You are jolted back to the present by a bitter curse from Hori, the man with the crushed leg. He has smelled it too. You look around the infirmary. Every man who is conscious is suddenly alert. Heads are lifted, noses are sniffing the air. On the face of every man is the same expression, a raw, naked longing quickly followed by a dark, bitter resentment. The man with the burned arms, Metjen, spits on the dirt floor, a gesture of profound disgust. The smell of that roasting meat is more than just the scent of food. It is the smell of injustice. It is a declaration of the vast, unbridgeable chasm that separates you from the men you serve. The social pyramid of Egypt is also a food pyramid. At the wide, sprawling base are you and 10,000 others subsisting on grain and beer. Further up are the overseers and foremen who might get extra fish or dates. And at the very peak in their shaded pavilions are the men who can read and write, the men who plan and command, and they feast on roasted goat. The shortage has not made you all comrades in suffering. It has stripped away the pretense of shared purpose and laid bare the brutal truth of the hierarchy. Their luxury is built upon your hunger. The scent of their feast is an insult to your starving children. The wind shifts, and the glorious agonizing smell fades away, leaving only the stale air of the infirmary behind. But it has changed something in the room. The dull resignation of the sick and injured has been sharpened into a quiet collective anger. You now understand the whispers of the strike on a visceral gut level. The fight is not just for more bread. It is a fight against this, against a world where some men can barely feed their families while others grow fat on roasted meat. The memory of the feast has made the reality of the famine unbearable. Your strength returns in agonizingly slow increments. You can now walk the length of the infirmary without assistance, your legs shaky but obedient. Your world, for weeks confined to a single reed mat, has expanded to include the 4 mud brick walls of this long, quiet room. In your slow, shuffling walks, you observe the other men. You learn their routines, the quiet rituals they perform to pass the time and hold on to a sliver of themselves. Today you watch Metyen, the man who is badly burned. The raw red skin on his arms is beginning to heal, and he can use his hands again, though he moves slowly, carefully. He sits near the doorway where the light is best, and he is mending his mallet. He has the heavy stone head resting in his lap, and with a sharp flint flake, he is slowly, painstakingly scraping and shaping a new handle from a piece of hard acacia wood. The sound is soft, rhythmic, and familiar. It is a sound that tears at your heart. You watch his hands. You know the motion so well, the way he turns the wood, feeling for the grain, the way he squints to make sure the fit will be snug, the careful, patient scraping that shaves off wood in thin, fragrant curls. Every movement is a ghost in your own muscles. You have performed this exact task 100 times. A good handle is a point of pride. It must be balanced smooth to the touch, strong enough to withstand thousands of jarring impacts. It is a simple object, but it is an extension of the man who wields it. Watching him, a profound and hollow sense of loss washes over you. You think of your own tools, not a simple mallet, but your set of copper chisels. You remember their specific weights and balances, the wide-mouthed chisel for clearing rough stone, the fine-tipped one for finishing edges. You remember the feel of their wooden handles, which you had shaped yourself, worn smooth and dark with the sweat and oil of your own hands. They were not just objects. They were your skill, your trade, your identity made tangible. They are gone now. Traded. You see them in your mind's eye, laid out on a merchant's blanket, their value being weighed against a healing charm, a handful of herbs, or a small portion of food. You pray to the gods that Amunet made a good trade, that the sacrifice of your entire working life was enough to buy back the life of your son. You made the only choice a father could make, and you do not regret it. But the grief is a physical thing, an emptiness in your hands that mirrors the hollow ache in your stomach. What is a stoneworker with no stone to work? What is a craftsman with no tools to mend? You look at Metyen, his face, a mask of quiet concentration as he fits the new handle to the mallet head. He is still a worker. He is preparing for his return. He is mending his tool so he can resume his life. You, on the other hand, have no tools to mend. You have no craft to return to. You have sacrificed your past and your future. Metyen looks up, feeling your gaze upon him. He sees you standing there watching him, your own bandaged hand held uselessly at your side. He looks at his own simple tool, then back at you. He does not smile, but he gives a slow, understanding nod. It is a quiet acknowledgement between two broken men of the same trade. He understands what you have lost. You turn away, unable to watch any longer. You walk back to your mat and look at your own hands. Your right hand calloused and strong, your left hand swollen, scarred, and useless. They are the hands of a builder, but they hold nothing. You have traded the symbols of your identity for the hope of your son's survival. You are no longer a stoneworker. You are a father. You are a husband. You are just Youssef. And as you lie back in the silence, you are terrified that this is no longer enough. You know it is the 10th day without looking at a scribe's calendar. You know it by the silence. It is a silence different from the quiet of the night. It is a daytime silence, a hollow, unnatural stillness where a great noise is supposed to be. The constant grinding percussive roar of the quarry, the sound that has been the backdrop to your entire life, is gone. The shouts of 10,000 men and their overseers have ceased. The entire world seems to be holding its breath. This is the official day of rest. In your mind, you remember what this day should feel like. A normal rest day was a blessing. A day to let the deep, aching exhaustion in your bones subside into a dull, manageable pain. It was a day for sleeping past the first horn, for mending the holes in your fishing net, for patching the leaking roof of your house with fresh mud and straw. It was a day of low, gentle activity. The village would be filled with the relaxed hum of men talking, the sound of children playing, the rhythmic scrape of a wife grinding grain for the week to come. It was a day to feel like a man, a husband, a father, not just a tool. But the silence today is not peaceful. It is heavy, sullen, charged with an unspoken energy. Amunet visits you in the middle of the day. The news of your son, Kinnaman, is a fragile, terrifying thing. The fever has not worsened, but neither has it broken. He lies in a state of limbo, drifting between sleep and wakefulness. The charm you bought with your tools hangs over his mat, a small, dark shape against the mud brick wall, a testament to a father's desperate hope. Amunet's face is a map of exhaustion. What is happening in the village? You ask her. Your voice a low whisper. The men are not resting, she says, her eyes darting around the infirmary, as if the walls themselves are listening. They are gathered in groups. By the well, in the alleys. They are not telling stories. They are talking. Their voices are low and angry. The foremen stay in their own houses. The scribes are not seen. You understand immediately. This day of rest is not being used for rest. It is being used for something else. It is a day of counsel, of strategy. A day to organize. The whispers you overheard have grown into open conversations. The shared anger, no longer suppressed by the daily grind of labor, is now free to fester and grow. The men are using the quiet of the day off to plan how to shatter that quiet on the morrow. A feeling of profound isolation washes over you. On any other rest day you would be there. You would be in one of those groups, listening, arguing, adding your own voice to the growing chorus of dissent. Your opinion, as a skilled worker, would have value, but you are here trapped in this house of the broken, a spectator to the fate of your own community. You are not a part of the struggle. You are a burden on it. Amunet gives you a small piece of dry bread before she leaves. It is the last of it. She whispers, her voice so quiet you can barely hear it. I do not know what we will do tomorrow. She leaves, and the weight of her words settles upon you. The sun begins to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The day of rest is ending, but nothing has been resolved. Nothing has been healed. The silence has not been a balm. It has been a crucible, forging the men's anger into a sharp, hard weapon. Tomorrow is the first day of the new work week, and you lie on your mat, your body weak and your heart pounding with a terrible, anxious dread. Will the great silent machine of the worksite roar back to life? Or will the 10,000 men who power it choose to remain silent, and in doing so, shout their defiance to the heavens? The morning of the 11th day dawns, but the world remains asleep. The great horn that should have shattered the dawn is silent. The familiar, distant roar of the quarry does not begin. The strike has happened. A quiet, passive, terrifying rebellion of 10,000 empty stomachs. But inside the house of healing, another more final silence has fallen. Hori is dead. The bitter man with the crushed leg, the one who argued over a crust of bread, has died in the night. His long, agonizing battle was not lost to his injury, but to the wasting sickness that followed a fever that his malnourished body had no strength to fight. The chief healer discovers him at sunrise, and there is no ceremony, only a weary resignation. Death is a frequent visitor to this house. You watch from your mat as the simple, somber rituals are performed. 2 junior healers come and wash Hori's body. They do it with a quiet, practiced efficiency. They straighten his twisted limbs. They close his eyes. They bind his jaw shut with a strip of linen. His wife is brought in a small, hunched figure, her face numb with a grief that is too deep for tears. She does not wail. She just stands there, watching the shell of her husband being prepared for its final journey. They wrap him in a shroud of clean linen. It is not the fine white royal linen, but a coarse patched fabric, the best that can be spared. His few worldly possessions are gathered a clay cup, a small crudely carved wooden amulet of a fish. His wife takes them, her hands trembling. These small objects are the complete summary of a man's entire life of toil. You had not liked Hori. He was a man made sour by pain. But in this shared space of suffering, he had become a familiar landmark. You knew the rhythm of his pained breathing, the specific pitch of his groans. His absence now is a physical presence, a void in the room. His empty mat is a stark reminder of the fate that awaits so many. In this place, you were all comrades, brothers. In a quiet war against your own broken bodies, you have lost a friend. As they prepare to carry him out, you find your thoughts drifting to the journey he is now on. The journey to the Hall of Two Truths. You picture his Ba, his spirit standing before the great god Osiris. You picture his heart, his Ibi, being placed on the great golden scales. On the other side of the scales is a single perfect feather, the feather of Ma'at, of truth and order. You wonder about Hori's heart. Would it be heavy with the bitterness and anger he carried in life? Or would the gods understand that his bitterness was born of a lifetime of pain and injustice? Would they judge his heart to be lighter than the feather, allowing him to enter the field of reeds? You desperately hope so. You imagine him there, now walking through lush green fields by a cool, clear river. His leg is whole again. He is not hungry. He is at peace. The thought of this paradise, the only true justice a poor man could ever hope for, is a small, fragile comfort. This simple, quiet ritual is a world away from the reason for your life's work. You have spent your years building a house of eternity for a king, a palace of granite and gold designed to preserve his body for millions of years. Hori, whose labor helped build that palace, will be taken to the simple burial grounds on the edge of the desert and placed in a shallow pit in the sand, his body returning to the dust from whence it came. The stark, brutal injustice of it all settles in your heart like a stone. The healers lift the shrouded body and carry it out of the infirmary. Hori is gone. The space he occupied is now just an empty mat on a dirt floor. The chief healer is already wiping it clean, preparing it for the next broken man the quarry will inevitably send his way. You lie on your own mat, acutely aware of your own breathing, your own fragile hold on life in the great, silent, striking world. The first day of the strike crawls by each hour, a small eternity. The silence from the work site is a constant screaming presence. It is the sound of 10,000 men saying no. A part of you, the part that remembers the sting of injustice, the smell of the overseer's feast, feels a fierce, burning pride. They are doing it. They are actually doing it. But that pride is a small, flickering flame, easily swallowed by a much larger, colder emotion, fear. This is not the fear of a scorpion or a slippery ramp. This is a calculated, intellectual fear. You are not defying a foreman now. You are defying the scribes. And the scribes are the voice of the vizier. And the vizier is the voice of the Pharaoh himself, the living God. This strike is not an argument, it is blasphemy. And the punishment for blasphemy is something your mind shies away from yet cannot stop picturing. The infirmary, once a refuge, has become a cage where anxieties fester. Every visitor from the village brings a new, terrifying rumor that spreads through the room like a contagion. Someone saw a contingent of Medjay guards marching towards the main granary. A man whispers, his eyes wide. The Medjay? The state police? They are not here to negotiate. The high scribe refuses all visitors. His pavilion is shut tight. They won't punish us all, another man says, trying to reassure himself. They need us. They will find the leaders. They will make an example of them. The phrase hangs in the air. Make an example. Your mind fevered with inactivity, and fear begins to cycle through the terrible catalog of state punishment, the things you have seen and the things you have heard stories of in hushed, terrified tones. You remember seeing a man punished for stealing grain 2 seasons ago? You remember the sound of the bastinado. the heavy wooden rods whistling through the air and landing with a wet, sickening thud on the bare soles of his feet. You remember his screams, which started as loud cries of pain and ended as weak, pathetic whimpers. He did not walk for a month. You think of the stories of the Nubian mines, a place of unbearable heat and eternal darkness, where men are sent to hack gold from the rock until they die. It is a death sentence served slowly, a way for the state to extract one last measure of labor from a condemned man. To be sent to the mines is to be erased from the world of the living. You think of the laws you have heard recited, of the power of the vizier to order a man's nose and ears cut off, leaving him, a shunned, mutilated outcast, for the rest of his days. You think of the darkest whispers of impalement, for traitors, of being thrown bound into the Nile, a feast for the crocodiles. These were stories meant to frighten children to ensure order. But, in the charged silence of this rebellion, they feel horribly sickeningly possible. The fear becomes personal. Who are the leaders? Is it hot-headed Rennie, who is always the first to complain? Is it wise old Idu, who commands the respect of the masons? You picture their faces, and you feel a surge of terror on their behalf. Then, the fear turns back on yourself. What if the state's punishment is simply to cut the village off completely, to let the striking workers and their families starve into submission? The image of Amunet's face, of Kenneman's feverish body, flashes in your mind. They are hostages in this terrible standoff. The sun sets on the silent work site. Nothing has been resolved. The tension has only coiled tighter. You lie on your mat, but you cannot rest. Your mind is a torture chamber filled with visions of rods and blades of dark mines and hungry crocodiles. The fear of what the state can do, of what it will do to restore its absolute authority, is a far greater poison than any scorpion sting. The fear of punishment leaves you hollowed out, an empty vessel, filled only with a cold, vibrating dread. Sleep does not come easily. Every time you close your eyes, you see the glint of a guard's spear or the grim face of the vizier. But eventually, exhaustion conquers fear. It does not pull you down into a restful slumber, but into a deep, profound state of escape. You do not dream of the quarry, nor of your sick child. You dream of paradise. You are standing in the Aru, the field of reeds. The light here is not the harsh, blinding glare of the sun, but a soft, eternal gold, the light of a perfect sunrise that never ends. The air is warm and gentle on your skin, carrying the sweet scent of lotus blossoms and damp, fertile earth. You look at your hands. They are both whole, strong, and uncalloused. The pain in your back is gone. The scorpion sting is a forgotten nightmare. You are complete. You are standing on the bank of a wide, placid canal. The water is not the muddy brown of the earthly Nile, but a clear, sparkling turquoise, and you can see silverfish darting through the reeds. The reeds themselves are impossibly tall and a vibrant living green. A gentle breeze whispers through them, creating a soft, soothing rustling sound, the only music you need. This is not a place of idle rest. It is a place of perfect, satisfying work. You have your own plot of land. The barley here grows as tall as a man, the heads of grain heavy and full. You cast seeds onto the rich black earth, and they sprout instantly. The work of the harvest, which on earth is a back-breaking ordeal, is here an act of effortless joy. The fruit on the trees is always ripe, a feast of figs and dates and pomegranates. There is no hunger here. There is only abundance. And you are not alone. Your family is with you. Amunet is by your side, her face young again, free from the lines of worry and hardship. She smiles a real, untroubled smile you have not seen in years. And running through the tall reeds, his laughter echoing in the peaceful air, is Kenneman. He is not sick. He is healthy, strong, his skin glowing with life. He runs to you, and you lift him into your arms. He is not heavy. Nothing is heavy here. Even Nebu, the man who fell, is here sitting by the canal with his own family, a fishing line in his hand. A look of serene peace on his face. There is no death here, only life eternal. There are no overseers shouting commands. There are no scribes with their cold, judging eyes. There is no ration line, no fear of punishment, no anxiety about the next meal. There is only the gentle rhythm of a perfect existence, a life of easy work, plentiful food, and endless time with the ones you love. This is the promise that has been whispered in every temple, the hope that is carved onto every coffin. This is the world you build the great pyramids to help your king attain. This is Mayat, made manifest, perfect, unchanging, eternal order. Slowly, cruelly, the beautiful dream begins to fray at the edges. The golden light begins to dim, replaced by the familiar gray gloom of the infirmary. The gentle rustle of the reeds transforms into the harsh rasping sound of a man coughing nearby. The feeling of wholeness evaporates, and the dull, throbbing ache returns to your hand. You open your eyes. You're back on your mat. The dream is gone. The reality of your broken body, your sick child, and the silent, striking world outside comes rushing back in. The beauty of the dream does not comfort you. It tortures you. It is a vision of everything you are fighting for, everything you have been denied. The field of reeds is the ultimate promise, but its gates are guarded by death. And as you lie there awake again in your suffering, you are more aware than ever of the vast, brutal distance between this life and the next. You wake slowly pulled from a shallow, dreamless sleep, not by a sound, but by a familiar sensation. It is the first thing you feel every morning, the true constant of your life. It is the ache. It is a complex, multi-layered thing. There is the sharp, localized throb in your bandaged hand, a constant reminder of the scorpion's kiss. Beneath that is the deep, chronic ache in your lower back and shoulders of pain ground so deep into your bones by years of labor that you no longer remember what it feels like to be without it. And beneath that is the hollow, gnawing ache of hunger in your stomach and the heavy, anxious ache in your chest whenever you think of your family. The ache is who you are. It is the first thing you greet in the morning and the last thing you say goodnight to. You lie still, listening. The silence holds. There is no horn, no rumble from the quarry. The strike continues into its second day. The tension in the air is no longer a new sharp thing. It has settled, solidified, becoming the new atmosphere of the world. It is a silence that waits. Instinctively, you try to move the fingers of your injured hand. For weeks, it has been a dead, useless weight. But today, something different happens. Inside the tight linen wrappings, you feel a tiny, faint flicker. A weak, ghostly response from a muscle you thought was dead. You try again. There it is. A small, almost imperceptible twitch of your index finger. It is a movement so small as to be meaningless to anyone else, but to you it is a miracle. It is a message from the deep, resilient core of your own body, a whisper that it has not given up. It is fighting to heal. Later, the chief healer comes on his rounds. He unwraps your hand to inspect it. The swelling is down the angry purple color, fading to a bruised yellow. He sees the small movement of your finger and gives a rare, approving nod. The gods are kind, he says. The body remembers how to live. You look into his old, weary eyes. Is there any news, Master? The healer hesitates, glancing around the room before leaning closer. His voice is a low, worried whisper. There is news. A traitor arrived this morning. He says the high scribes have sent a message to the capital. They are not asking for more grain. They are asking for soldiers. The word lands in your gut like a stone. Not the Medjay guards, soldiers, the army, the hardened killers who fight the wars in Nubia and Libya. They are not coming to negotiate or to distribute food. They are coming to crush. You lie back on your mat, the healer's words echoing in your mind. Soldiers are coming. The state is not going to bend. It is going to break you all. You look at your hand, at the tiny, hopeful flicker of life in your finger. Your body is fighting to mend itself, to rejoin the world of the living. Your son, Kenaman, is fighting a fever in his small body. Your comrades, your friends, are fighting a desperate battle for their dignity and survival. And in that moment, something inside you crystallizes. The despair, the fear, the helplessness you have felt for weeks begins to burn away, leaving behind something hard and cold, resolve. The time for being a passive, broken patient is ending. The ache in your body is no longer just a record of your suffering. It is a testament to your endurance. It is the price you have paid to still be here. Another dawn has broken. The ache is the same. But you are not. You are a survivor. And you are waiting with a quiet, terrible patience for a chance to fight back. For a moment, let's pull back from the dust of the quarry and the darkness of the infirmary. The story of Yusuf of Nebu of Hori is one story woven from thousands of similar threads. And the world they inhabited, the world of the pyramid builders, is one that has been clouded by myth for centuries. The most powerful of these myths painted on the giant screens of Hollywood and written in dramatic novels is that of the whip-driven slave. We see images of vast, faceless hordes of foreign captives groaning under the lash of cruel masters, living and dying in chains to build a tomb for a tyrant. But the truth uncovered slowly from the sand itself is more complex and far more human. The men who built the pyramids were not, for the most part, slaves. They were Egyptians. They were farmers, stonemasons, carpenters, and skilled artisans. Many were conscripted during the season of the Akhet, the inundation when the Nile flooded their fields and made farming impossible. This was a form of national service, a way of paying taxes with labor instead of coin. The archaeological evidence is clear. The discovery of a sprawling workers' village near the Giza Plateau, complete with bakeries, breweries, and infirmaries, tells a story of a highly organized, long-term workforce. Even more telling are the tombs. In the shadow of the Great Pyramids, archaeologists have found the graves of the builders themselves. They were buried with honor, with pots for food, and beer for the afterlife, some even in small, custom-built tombs. This is an honor that would never, ever be afforded to a slave. The records they left behind, scribbled on ostraka, tell of their lives. They tell of receiving daily rations of bread, beer, and fish. And most importantly, they tell of protest. The account of the very first recorded strike in history comes from the pyramid builders of Deir el-Bahari, who laid down their tools and chanted, "We are hungry." It was not the act of powerless slaves, but of valued workers who knew their rights and were willing to demand them. The reality was not a life of chains and whips, but a life of hard, contractual obligation, a life that was brutal, yes, but one that existed within a complex social system, not outside of it. The second great myth is one of primitivism, that these great structures were built by sheer brute force by throwing countless bodies at an impossible problem until it was solved. Or, at the other extreme, that the technology required was so advanced it must have come from a lost civilization or from the stars. But this, too, misses the quiet genius of the Egyptians. They were not primitive. They were masters of logistics engineering and practical mathematics. Their brilliance was not in lasers or anti-gravity, but in their profound understanding of simple, elegant solutions. They aligned the Great Pyramid to the cardinal points with an accuracy that modern builders would find challenging, likely using the movements of the stars. They cut and fitted massive blocks of granite with a precision that left no gap for even a knife's blade. They did this not with unknowable technology, but with patience and ingenuity. They understood that a copper saw, which is too soft to cut granite, becomes a powerful abrasive tool when used with sand and water. They understood that moving a multi-ton block becomes possible when you wet the sand in front of the sledge, reducing the friction by half. The mind that guided Yusuf's hand was not just his own. It was part of a chain of knowledge passed down through generations. A deep, practical intelligence honed by a people who knew the properties of stone, wood, rope, and water better than anyone else on earth. Their achievement is not diminished by its simplicity. It is magnified. And so we are left with this picture, not of slaves, but of skilled and semi-skilled men living in a complex society, performing a monumental task. But the question remains, what was the value of a single life in this grand equation? The life of a man like Yusuf was short-filled with pain and destined for anonymity. He could be maimed by his work, poisoned by the desert, or felled by a fever. His death, like Nebu's, would be a momentary disruption, his place on the rope or the lever quickly filled by another. These individual disposable lives were the currency used to purchase a single king's immortality. Was their powerful belief in the divinity of their pharaoh, their conviction that this work maintained the cosmic order of Ma'at, enough to balance the scales against their own suffering? Or was that merely the story they were told, the grand justification for a life of toil? They had no choice but to accept. We, in the quiet of our own time, can only wonder. We can try to imagine the mindset of a man who believes his sweat is helping to keep the sun rising in the sky. But we must also imagine the simple human reality, the gnawing hunger, the aching back the fear for a sick child. The pyramid was a project of gods and kings, but it was built by fathers, husbands, and sons. Before we judge their world too harshly, perhaps we should look at our own. We no longer build great tombs of stone to house a single ruler. Our pyramids today take different forms. They are the gleaming skyscrapers that pierce the clouds, built by construction workers dangling hundreds of feet in the air. They are the vast, complex supply chains that bring food to our tables and products to our doors, powered by factory workers and drivers on punishing schedules. They are the intricate digital worlds inside our phones and computers, built on the labor of miners extracting rare earth minerals in dangerous conditions on the other side of the world. We too live in the shadow of great monuments. And we too rarely stop to consider the individual human cost of their construction. We do not often think of the name, the family, or the aching back of the person whose labor makes our own comfort possible. The fundamental dynamic is a timeless one. The desire to achieve great things, to build wonders that outlast a single lifetime, is a powerful human driver. But it has always been fueled by the sweat, the pain, and the quiet, often anonymous endurance of countless individual lives. The story of the pyramid builder is not just a story about the ancient past. It is in many ways the story of civilization itself. And so we return from the grand sweep of history to that small room, to that single man on a mat. How did his story end? The strike, that great, silent rebellion, eventually achieved its purpose. Faced with a work site that would not work and the looming threat of the army, the scribes found a delayed shipment of grain. The rations were restored for a time. The men, having won a small temporary victory, went back to the quarry. You eventually healed. Your son's fever broke the charm. Bought with your future hanging over his mat, you survived. You left the house of healing and returned to your family, to your life. You eventually went back to work, perhaps not as a skilled quarryman with your prized chisels gone, but as a laborer, a puller on the ropes, your body once again thrown against the weight of the stone. The great machine, having stalled for a moment, ground back into motion. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into years. The pyramid grew inch by painful inch. More men fell. More children got sick. More grain shipments were late. Nothing truly changed. This is often the way of history. A moment of fierce defiance followed by a slow return to the familiar ache of the everyday. And you grew old. Your body, a testament to a lifetime of brutal labor, finally gave out. And when your time came, your family washed your body, wrapped you in a simple linen shroud, and buried you in a shallow pit in the western sands. They placed a small cup of beer and a loaf of bread beside you for your journey. This is the final cruel paradox. You who spent your entire life building the most magnificent, eternal, indestructible house the world has ever known were yourself laid to rest in a shallow, unmarked grave. You who built a perfect vessel for your king's soul to ascend to the field of reeds had only a few meager offerings and a lifetime of hope to aid your own journey. The builder of the immortal house was himself mortal, his name and his suffering erased by a few handfuls of sand. And you, listening to this story, now safe and warm in your own time in your own bed. Let's ask the question, could you have done it? Could you have woken before dawn every day to face that back-breaking, soul-crushing labor? Could you have endured the dust, the heat, the hunger, the constant threat of injury and death? What would you have held on to survive? Would it be the grand promise of a paradise in the field of reeds? Would it be the fierce protective love for your family? Or would it be the small, simple things, the taste of a sharp onion, the coolness of water on a parched throat, the shared, silent understanding with the man working beside you? There is no right answer. But the question is worth asking. It connects us to them, a bridge of shared humanity across the vast chasm of time. Our lives are in many ways unimaginably different. We worry about things they could never comprehend. But perhaps the core of the struggle is the same. We all seek to build something to provide for our families, to find meaning in our labor, to endure our own private aches. And perhaps listening to a story like this can offer a strange kind of comfort, a sense of perspective, a quiet gratitude for the softness of your pillow, for the coolness of the air in your room, for a life in which your survival is not the subject of a daily, brutal negotiation. But the time for questions is over now. The story is finished. The dust of the Giza Plateau has long since settled thousands of years ago. The sound of the mallets on stone has faded into an eternal silence. You are not there anymore. You are here. You are in your own room, in your own time. Feel the gentle, comfortable weight of your own blanket, not the crushing weight of the stone. Hear the quiet, steady hum of your own home, not the lonely whistle of the wind on the high ramps. There is no foreman to shout at you. There is no horn that will call for you at dawn. All of that is gone. Let it all fade away. Let the memory of the pain, the dust, and the struggle dissolve into the darkness. Your work is done. The pyramid is complete. There is nothing left for you to do now but rest. Let your body grow heavy. Let it sink deep into the mattress. Feel the tension leave your shoulders. Feel your arms and legs grow limp and peaceful. Turn your attention to your breathing, a slow breath in, and a long, soft breath out. Everything is quiet now. Everything is calm. The story is over. Now, just sleep. Sleep.